You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio. This is continuing coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine. Live from Indianapolis on the Steelers Audio Network. Presented by First National Bank. Can your bank do that? Welcome to FNB. Let's get started. Member FDIC. Iron Workers Local Union number 3. We don't go to the office, we build it. Schneider Downs. Discover the value of big thinking with a personal focus at schneiderdowns.com. Your neighborhood Ford store. The Ford F-150 is the official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by U.S. Steel. Mind melted, made in the USA.
Good afternoon, Steelers Nation. It's The Drive, live on Radio Row at the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, and we are leading off today with
power hitter
Barry Bonds.
Yeah, right.
Wayne Gretzky. The great one, Dane Brugler, joins us. If you've listened to our show for more than 5 seconds, you've heard us reference Dane plenty throughout this draft process. Of course, draft analyst for The Athletic, author of The Beast, one of our favorite people to talk to here every single year. Dane, what's up, man? Have you slept at all yet this week?
I see you got my PR hit points to introduce me. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Check out the Building of the Beast podcast as well. How about that?
Yeah,
that's a new development.
It's been a lot of fun. Kind of take people through the process of, the scouting process of this during the season and into the draft process, All-Star season, now the Combine. It's crazy how it's flying. I mean, we're on our way. So yeah, it's good to see you guys.
So we look at the quarterback aside. I mean, it's almost a whole different conversation for this team, and it has been for 5 years. Wide receivers got to be a big thing to address here, especially going to a McCarthy offense with 3 receivers on the field, not so tight end centric. But it looks like a really strong receiver draft through the first 2 days.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be good options at 21 without having to move? And if you happen to go a different direction, do you think you'd be happy with the day 2 stuff as well? Steelers have 3 third-round picks.
Well, and I had 17 receivers in my top 100.
Yeah.
And that's that reflects the depth, I think. Even though I don't think this draft has a Malik Neighbors or, like that clear guy at the top that it's like, all right, this is a – you draft them top 5.
Yeah.
And exactly. I don't think this draft necessarily has that, but the depth, and it depends on what type of receiver you want. You want the X, okay, Denzel Boston, you like the way you play. You want more of that slot player, want more of the Z. You
wouldn't hesitate with Boston at 21, assuming he runs decent this week?
No, if I was looking for a big physical X, a guy that would give me some inside versatility as a big slot, I would be perfectly fine with that. I tell you, the player I'm interested in with Pittsburgh, Jordan Tyson.
Okay.
I reported last night he's not going to work out here at the Combine. You cross your fingers, you're able to see him work out before the draft, but no guarantees.
There are some medicals, right?
It's a hamstring that's bothered him during the season, and still. Like, I think if there was a game tomorrow, he could probably gut it out. But it's like, okay, do I really want to strain and hurt it more when, just to run a 40-yard dash, that kind of thing.
But you don't think he'll be a medical reject for other reasons?
So that's the big question mark is the durability with him. He had the knee as a freshman at Colorado. As long as the knee's – I'm more worried about the knee, I guess, just making sure there's no long-term worries with the knee. He had a collarbone last year, and I think that'll be fine. The hamstring is more of a rest issue.
Okay.
I think he'll be fine long term. Hopefully, the medical staff, that this will be a big week for him, and as he goes through the gauntlet, and every team looks at him physically. But now that he's not going to be able to work out here at the Combine, maybe before the draft, I don't know, who knows? There's a little bit of a discount sticker on him now, where before, because I think on the tape he's a top 12 player in this draft.
Okay.
Now it's like, okay, if I'm the Browns at 24, Steelers at 21,
Yeah.
So that all of a sudden it's a lot more realistic that hey, this could be an option for us when we didn't think so. Maybe just looking at the tape.
And Hines Ward's his position coach, too.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's something where it's a fun story, but you also you know the way he was coached. You know the way he was pushed. You're not going to get any better intel from a coaching staff because sometimes, coaches can tell you what you want to hear, but you feel like Hines Ward's going to give it to you straight.
Yeah, I bet.
How do you feel about those big 3 names at receiver, Tate, Lemon, and of course, how, like, what's your pecking order for those guys, and who do you think is Tate the one who's wide receiver 1 at this point, or is that still up in the air?
Are they in their own tier as well?
Yeah, I think so. And for me, he is. I love him as a Z, where I'm eager to see what he runs, because you don't watch him and say, oh, he's a burner.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got those long strides where he eats up grass so fast. And so he gets on top of the defense, and he's a big-time player down the field, tracks the ball well, really good in contested situations. I think it was like 12 of 14 this year, which is bananas. He's one of the better sideline receivers that I've evaluated, not just this year but ever, which I think is a very underrated trait, his ability to tiptoe along the sideline, that balance, and then also he's so long that he pulls throws back into play when they're out of bounds. So the catch radius, the toughness at the catch point, the ability to get vertical, and the steps he took this year just to become a more proficient route runner, really impressed with. And so he was really productive for a team that he was never needed to be the number one, with the Emeka Egbuka there last year, and Jeremiah Smith, and then Jeremiah Smith this past year. So
those Ohio State guys have been pretty productive in the pros.
Not
too.
bad.
Yeah.
You can name a few, right? And at this time next year, we'll be gushing about Jeremiah Smith and how different he is. But yeah, I think Carnell Tate, coming into this year, I liked him. I saw him more as a borderline first, second round guy. The way he performed this year, he put himself in that top 15 mix for sure.
So Lemon, watching him, I think, boy, there's no way he gets to 21. I mean, just a really good football player.
Right.
But we know how this process works. I mean, we could leave this week and say he's small and slow.
Yeah, not for everybody, that kind of thing. And I think you just said something that I think is the theme of this draft, at least the top half of the draft, is just draft good football players.
Yeah.
I think we can get so caught up. I mean, you have a scouting background, it's so easy to chase the high-end traits and chase the upside, and I get that. But this draft,
and the premium positions aren't as strong as they usually are. Yeah.
Safety, running back, you're talking about two of the best players in this draft with Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love. Sonny Styles is a top 5 player in this draft, in my opinion. He's an off-ball linebacker. So yeah, I think it's less about hitting those premium positions, chasing the traits, and more about just draft good football players. And Mekhi Lemon kind of falls in that territory where, and I joke that his rookie contract, 1% of that should go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. Because I think that really gives you a path of, hey, this is how he's going to play. This is how to win with a player like this. And maybe we're not talking about him as a top 15 pick if Amon-Ra St. Brown just never existed. But he's not a slot-only player, but I think he's best in the slot. It's where you want him to use the middle of the field. So strong through contact. His ability to manipulate the coverage. And then after as well, he's so efficient going from catcher to runner so he can make something happen with the rack. So
you don't think that's an exaggeration to compare him to St. Brown, at least stylistically?
Stylistically, I think it's spot on.
Yeah.
That's if you want that type of player, you're gonna love Mekhi Lemon, and it's always it's a fine needle to thread, right? Because there's one of those guys, and so you're really gonna put all your chips in on a guy that's gonna turn out to be just like this one player. So there is risk involved for sure, especially when we get his verified numbers in terms of the size. And I don't know if he's going to run here. I know he's going to do position drills. I don't know if he's going to run. But you're not drafting him because he's faster than everybody else. Mm-hmm. He is just tougher and better than everybody else. And so, yeah, I don't think he's going to get to where the Steelers are drafting. Somewhere top 16, somewhere the top half of round 1, I think he's going to go.
So the Steelers have, 5 picks in the top 100. They have 4 picks on day 2.
Yeah.
So if it's not wide receiver at 21, is there anybody in kind of that second wave, that second crop that stands out to you at this point?
At receiver?
Yeah.
I mean, I like Casey Concepcion as kind of that next guy. You have to live with some of the drops, but he's explosive. He gets open, and he's another guy that you give him a little bit of space, he can go the distance. Punt returner as well. So Concepcion, another guy I'm eager to see if he runs here because he's fast on film. We'll see how that translates to the 40. Boston, like we said, he's more of that prototypical X, big player, can use his frame. Just not many 6'3.5" receivers that size that can go make a play. And it doesn't matter if he's covered, he can still go make a play. I think Omar Cooper Jr. is in that mix as well.
Yeah. Fields?
Yeah, Fields, he's another good football player. I don't know. I can't get quite there in the first round with him.
Yeah,
but
I was thinking second round. Maybe.
Yeah, I think if you wait till the second round, I think him. It's unfortunate. Chris Bell had the ACL because he was, just 6'3", 225. Have his explosiveness, his power. He's a guy that's easy to get excited about. He's just the ACL really clouds his future, but good football player. So
Omar Khan spoke today, and that's been what we've talked about most over the course of the day. And just reading between the tea leaves, I kind of get the feeling that Jalen Ramsey could probably go back to slot corner and not safety, thus creating a pretty big need at a safety/free safety spot. Downs is going to be gone, but Toledo or Oregon, would you consider one of those guys at 21? Do you think they're worthy?
Yeah,
I'm kind of leaning that direction lately.
Well, it's funny because McNeil Warren from Toledo, one of my favorite players since I watched him in the summer, and did a good story on him during the year. And Jason Candle, the head coach at Toledo, found him. He was just shooting baskets in the gym, and said, "Hey, do you play football?" And he's like, "Yeah." And next thing you know, he's got an offer, and so and he had offers to go transfer and go up to the FBS, or he was already at FBS, but go up to Big Ten or bigger program, and he stayed put. He was loyal to Candle and that coaching staff, and I think it worked out for him because he has a good chance to be somewhere in the top 35 picks, but he is a really long player. He can tackle. He can go find the ball. Thieneman, he has a chance to really help himself this week.
That's what I thought.
He's a big-time athlete. Back to his Purdue days, playing single high and covering both sidelines. But I think what you like about him is how versatile he is as a safety. If you want him to cover space, he can do that. You want him to be a nickel, he can do that too. You want him to disguise coverages. I think you can be really creative with him because he's a good athlete, he's a smart player, and he's tough. And his give a crap factor is high. He really cares. And so those are the type of guys that I think you want to bet on. And so especially after what he does this week, Thieneman and McNeil Warren, I think both have a shot to go top 25.
The other position I would ask you about in a similar light is just a pure defensive tackle. Could the dude from Florida,
Caleb Banks,
or one of these guys,
Lee Hunter, Peter Woods,
could they? I could see Woods having a big week. I mean, could one of those guys get in that mix of surefire first round, mid first round?
Caleb Banks, I'm very excited to see this week. I talked to him last week just about kind of making up for lost time because he coming into the year, he had first and second round grades from scouts over the summer, and then had the foot injury, tried to come back and came back for the third game of the year, got hurt again, had to have a surgery. Most guys are shutting it down at that point. Not him. He came back for like the last two games of the year, even though Florida was a bad team, which I think really says something about him as a person and a competitor. But you just don't find 6'6", 335, 35-inch arms, 11-inch hands. You don't find that. Guys that are disruptive, move well, good athletes. Still,
he plays a little high at times, right?
That's it. And at that size, you're going to be able to – the leverage is going to be an issue for you. He's still learning how to work around that. But I think it was a 2024 LSU tape I just keep going back to and how dominant he was at many points during that year. It's just the injuries. You have to be comfortable with where he is durability-wise. But the traits, no doubt about it, top 10 traits. It's just how much can you stomach him, being comfortable with where he is with the durability.
Okay.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about these quarterbacks. Obviously, Mendoza, number one. Yep. We know he's going to be
done deal.
He's done deal, signed, sealed, delivered at this point. But if someone like Ty Sampson's there at 21 for the Steelers, is that a real option? Do you like him in that range? Or you think there's someone else who could maybe usurp him and become that QB2 in this class?
I'd be surprised just because there's not a lot of competitors for that. I like Garrett Nussmeier, but I think it'll be tough for him to get up that high. Cole Payton's a fun player from North Dakota State.
I was going to ask you about him. I wouldn't mind a third-round flyer on Cole Payton.
He's in this tough spot because it's funny, coming out of Nebraska in high school, he went to North Dakota State thinking, I'm going to play, because they were losing Trey Lance. So he goes to North Dakota State thinking he's going to get on the field, but Cam Miller's there, who starts for 4 years, and then the Raiders drafted him last year. So finally gets on the field as a starter, and talking to scouts over the summer about him, they were thinking about him as a tight end convert because he's a big-sized kid and a good athlete. Toughness is off the charts. And so, but the tape he produced this year shows, okay, he's a quarterback, big lefty, but he needs more reps. But he's not ready for NFL competition. So he's kind of in that middle ground where you wish he had one more year of eligibility, or you wish NFL had some kind of a G League where he could go get those valuable reps without, having to make him your starter. So he's kind of in that middle ground, which is tough. But, yeah, he's really super intriguing. Ty, both these guys, Cole Payton, 13 starts, Ty Simpson, 15 starts. And just going back the last 15 years, the quarterbacks that had 15 or fewer starts in college.
It's brutal.
Trubisky, Anthony Richardson, Dwayne Haskins.
Haskins was one.
It's Trey Lance.
Yeah. I mean, and he had like 17. Like, it just a few more. But to your
still
point.
applies, yeah.
Yeah, anything, I think, under 20. The best quarterback is Kyler Murray, maybe, and I mean he's had mediocre success at best. Mm-hmm. So there's just no substitute for experience. But Ty's a little different because his dad is a 20-year head coach at the FCS level. He got that quarterback education since he was 5, growing up on a college campus. And there's a lot of things on tape to like. His processing and the way he can navigate the pocket. It's a lot of quarterback things. It's not just he's a big athlete who can throw the ball far. He does a lot of quarterback-specific things that will translate to the NFL. There's just a lot he hasn't seen, in terms of coverages, in terms of situational things, where you're going to take your lumps. And it's just a matter of, do you believe he has the mental toughness to take those mental lumps and come back and be better because of it? And if you think he has that in him, not the intangible factor where the competitive toughness is ingrained in him, then yeah, I'd be fine rolling the dice at that point. It's just there is
maybe
definitely
a year behind Aaron Rodgers, something like
that's
that.
That's not the worst spot
Mentor,
to be in for him. Yeah.
Last thing I got for you, Dane. Thanks so much. I mean, I don't think the Steelers will go corner in round 1, but one of those 4 day 2 picks, I could definitely see a corner. Is that a pretty rich area to go shopping?
I think so. I do think there's a drop off after the 3rd round. Like once you get to day 3, I think it drops off pretty hard at
so
corner.
You would do it day 2, or
if I wanted to come away from this draft with a corner, I'm doing it somewhere in the first 3 rounds.
Okay.
And Chris Johnson from San Diego State is one of my favorite corners in this draft. He's a young player, but really instinctive. The coverage ability is outstanding. He's tough first to run. I think D'Angelo Pons, he's another one.
He's an interesting.
He's gonna have the discount sticker because of the size. Some teams immediately gonna write him off. Under 30-inch arms, under 5'9". But man,
Sissy could really blow up this week, right?
There's a good chance he will. 4 threes, 40-inch and a vert. He's probably in the conversation at 21 if you want him.
Wow. Okay.
Just because
the traits.
And it's corner's a stopwatch position. So if you show you have that athleticism, there's a good chance you're going to go. But corner is definitely a pretty decent group when you're talking about those top 100 picks.
Before we let you go, weird year for offensive tackles. Because you've got the 2 big names, but then a lot of the Proctors and the Freelings and the Lomus. Is there anyone of that kind of second wave, those mid to back first-round guys that you like, that you think is worth? Because we rarely see tackles drafted in that range,
right?
And it feels like there could be 3 or 4 this year.
It seems like Freeling and the Arizona State dude whose name I destroyed
Ian H. Orr,
have a chance to really step up athletically.
There's no question about it. And Freeling's a guy, it's fine. My first mock I did this year was at Thanksgiving, and I put Freeling in there because I really like the traits. And the pushback I got, like, oh, wait, what are you talking about? We haven't seen this name before. Just wait, because teams are buzzing about him. And
the last month of the season was a lot different than the first 2 months of the season.
Well, and he's a young player. He's getting better and better, stacking those good games. If he went back to Georgia, we're probably talking about him as a top 10 pick next year in the 2027 draft. So if that's the case, could he go top 10 this year? I wouldn't rule it out. He's has a true left tackle skill set where Maui Noah, Fano, they're right tackles. Even Maui Noah for some teams is a guard. So if you're really looking for that left tackle skill set, then that's what he gives you. I think like a Colton Miller when he's coming out of UCLA. Like he was like 15 overall. Like there's some questions about him, but good player. And so
he's not Joe Alt as a prospect.
Exactly.
But,
right. But there's still a lot to like and a path where you can see him becoming an NFL starter. And so I see it similar with Freeling. And Proctor's a little more complicated, but, man, the traits and tools are outstanding.
Weigh-in's going to be huge.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it's
no matter what.
Listed at 360. We'll see what he comes in at. Just a huge human, but he's not overweight. Like he
doesn't look sloppy.
No, not at all. And so he's fascinating. It'll be interesting. But I think your overall point is right that it's there's a lot of tackles in that first round who could go at any point, and
it seems like playoff teams might actually get tackles this year, which is rare.
Well, and all 32 teams need them, right?
Yeah.
Depth or starters, and so we're going to see those guys go pretty quickly. I'm talking to the Browns guys, 6 or 24, they need a tackle. You're going to be sitting on the edge of your seat hoping he falls to 24. A tackle is going to fall to 24 if you don't take one at 6. So
they may need 5 offensive line.
Well, yeah. How many draft picks do they have? Because, they need a lot of help.
The great Dane Brugler, the Athletic. Thank you so much for taking the time in the middle of a big, busy week here, and we'll be looking forward to the Beast here before too much longer.
Can't wait. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Make sure you're checking out all his work. Thanks for the time. We're going to get to our first break here. Matt and I will continue on Radio Row live in Indianapolis at the Combine. It's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is live coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine on Steelers Nation Radio, a part of the Steelers Audio Network.
Back on Radio Row here, it's The Drive inside the Indiana Convention Center, all part of our ongoing Combine coverage. And our A-list of guests continues here. Kyle Crabbs, Locked On NFL Scouting, joining us. Kyle, thanks for taking the time. How's it going so far this week?
It's good. Getting the feet wet.
Yeah.
I flew out early with the winter storm that came through, so I was getting cabin fever, just ready for something to happen. And here we are, so we're good.
Where's home?
Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. Wrong side of the state, but we'll let it slide.
I'm Berks County originally, Penn State grad. So
okay. As long as you're not a Flyers fan, we'll be all right.
No, sir.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
We're cool.
I actually did one semester at IUP. So,
oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, so Western PA education is where I'm
Fine
at.
institution.
Yeah, love it.
We had Dane on before. We're probably going to ask you a lot of the same questions. A lot of it's going to center around wide receivers.
Sure.
Steelers are very needy. Quarterback aside, I want to get to that. Are you comfortable with 21 with these receiver situation? But it seems like day 2 is really flush with them as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the 7-on-7 culture of young kids coming up through the game now, right? Is they get all this time on task, and if you're below North Carolina, you're outside year-round doing 7-on-7 stuff. So I think the byproduct of that is you see these draft classes of wide receivers on an annual basis where it's just deep. And I think this year is another year that's like that. I think the nice thing with Pittsburgh for where they're picking in the first round is I'd be comfortable with any of the wide receivers in this class. I don't know which ones will make it down to 21.
Yeah.
But, if you told me any of the perceived top 3 guys with Jordan Tyson and Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate, you told me any one of those guys was there, I think
That's an easy one,
it's a great value with 21, right? I think you get past that point.
I say, what about Boston at 21?
Maybe a little early.
Okay.
But I like Denzel Boston. I think he can be a nice X receiver for somebody, and I love the physicality and the way he attacks the ball in the air. So, do you want to play with 21? Can you get a trade partner if you want to pick for need? And that's always kind of slippery slope. So if you get a no-brainer in another spot, I think you can come back in the second round. And Pittsburgh obviously has a bunch of top 100 picks this year.
Yeah, they have 3/3.
So, 5 in the top 100.
Yeah,
so they do have some.
They've got that
stuff to play with,
compensatory 3 coming for Dan Moore.
And the Pickens trade, too.
Yeah, so they're well suited to find value in one of those spots.
Do you have any day 2 favorite wide receivers?
Man, I don't know if he's going to stay on day 2, but Omar Cooper from Indiana
seems to have a lot of steam right now.
Yes, he does. And, it was who was it? It was Todd McShay made a little bit of a faster Jarvis Landry comparison.
Oh, I like that.
I see the way that he runs. I see Jarvis Landry there. So
you talk about the blocker and the dirty work.
Yeah,
okay.
and just his the way that he moves, he's fluid like Jarvis, and he's got good contact balance, and he's a tough player. I think he's somebody that could really get a lot of gas because a lot of the passing game at Indiana, Surratt was the contested catch and back shoulder guy, and they had great chemistry there, and they spread the ball around pretty well. I think Cooper has a chance to be, with how NFL offenses move their receivers around now, it's a little bit less tight for a slot guy and outside guy. There's a little bit more interchangeability there. I think he could be a volume receiver at the NFL level.
Yeah, he seems like I hate the term safe pick, but it just seems like he translates quickly to the league.
Yeah, and you think about Pittsburgh and kind of the demeanor and the division and AFC North football, and he kind of embodies some of that. So I think that would be a really good fit if the stars align from a pick perspective. And I don't think that's at 21, but I don't know that he makes it to the second round pick. So it's you might need the stars to align for you in that regard.
So I don't think this applies to the Steelers, but I'm kind of on the edge of my seat this week to see who running back 2 and tight end 2 might be.
Yeah.
Do you think that's still to be determined around the league, and this week could go a long way?
I think so. I think the testing can really help. Where at running back, it's obviously Jeremiah Love, and his teammate Price has a lot of fans, and I like the way that he runs. I don't think he's super dynamic as a player, but I think he's got good vision. I think he runs hard. He's quick to get downhill. I like Jonah Coleman from Washington as well. So I think those are a couple of guys for me that are in that conversation. And if
Is
they
Johnson from Nebraska sort of that mix too? He's a good receiver, right?
Yeah, he's a good receiver. He's a good athlete. You see him in the open field when he opens up his strides, how he can really go. I think for me, he's probably in that third-round mix. The question for running back, too, it almost reminds me of, was it 14 or 15, the Bishop Sankey year, where it's like, when's anybody going to get drafted at running back? And, like, beyond Jeremiah Love, who may go as early as top 10, it kind of feels like that kind of class for me, where
it could be a wait.
There's not a lot of separation for those guys, and that might hurt them at that position. I think at tight end, it's a really intriguing class. Obviously, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon is the marquee name there, and I think there's a lot of different skill sets. So that might just come down to, do you want a Y? Do you want a flex guy? Do you want a guy like a Michael Trigg out of Baylor?
He's so intriguing to me.
Can play in the backfield or in the slot, and
he's got a lot of ability.
He's got a ton, and he's long, right? Like the catch radius is really big there too, and he's got these big, strong hands. A couple of these outside of the body catches that he's had. If you're just going off traits, I think that might be my second favorite tight end in the class for the receiving profile that he has.
Interesting.
I'm a big fan. I know he's got some off-the-field stuff, but just an absolutely dynamic athlete. Let's talk some cornerbacks with you here as well, too. Some, again, interesting profiles and types. You've got someone like McCoy, who was so good 2 years ago, but then didn't see the field last year with injuries. Maybe not the nailed-on top 6 or 7 pick in this group, but what feels like in that middle of the first round, some really strong candidates, and we could see at some point maybe around pick 10-ish a real run at that position.
Yeah, I think you think about Cincinnati and Miami at 10 and 11 as two teams that corner makes a ton of sense for both teams.
Yeah.
And it's a question of does positional value drive any, or does positional scarcity, I should say, drive any other. Is a team not confident that an offensive tackle is going to get back to him in the top 10 if they pick in the top 10 the next time they come around? Does that create a domino effect where those guys might trickle down into the teens a little bit? But McCoy's super physically talented. I think he's the most physically talented corner in the class. I think I like Mansour Delane a little more as far as the football intelligence in which he plays the game with, and how fast he sees things, and I think he's a really clean player for run support and tackling. He's not an electric athlete the way that I think Jermon McCoy has that like raw physical ability, but I think Delane is the one that I would feel most comfortable with being a quality starter quickly in the NFL. Because, I mean, with McCoy and the missed time that he had this past year, it is an extra kind of gap in the resume that's what this whole process is about, right, is identifying risks and why you might have more of a concern for a guy and what breaks those ties if guys are in the same bucket.
Okay. So we just had Dane Brugler on, too, and we were asking him about corners, and he kind of said, I like the day 2 guys a lot, but after that it looks like a big drop-off. If you're going to get one, probably need to use one of the top three round picks. Do you agree with that, too?
Yeah, I think there's probably close to a dozen in the top 100. That, if you told me it was Chris Johnson from San Diego State's a big physical guy, I really thought Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State had a much better year this year than what he did the previous year.
Okay.
Cleaned up the penalties.
You think he's a day 2 guy?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, he runs well. He was awesome at the Senior Bowl as far as being it kind of reminded me of Tyreek Stevenson out of University of Miami when he came in and was super physical at the Senior Bowl that year. And he got himself drafted in the second round. Like, I don't know that Igbinosun will go in the second round, but I think he's helped himself that, plus the tape being cleaner and a little bit more disciplined with his hands, that I would expect his physical profile, his combativeness, the way that he disrupts routes, could very easily see him going in, like, late round 2, early round 3.
Interesting.
A couple more minutes here with Kyle Krabs, Locked On NFL Scouting. defensive tackle position that we're kind of keeping an eye on. The Steelers did go there with their first-round pick last year, Derek Harmon, but we saw them not too long ago go back-to-back offensive tackles. I think it's certainly a possibility this year, particularly with this group, because there's not the it doesn't feel there's certainly not the Mason Graham or someone who's going to go in the top 10 and around that range. Harmon was the 4th defensive tackle off the board last year. Could the Steelers have their choice of DT1 at pick 21? Woods, Lee Hunter, Caleb Banks. Do you think we could really see the first 20 picks go by without one of those true interior guys coming off the board?
I think I'd be surprised if any of them did go in the top
20.
Like
okay.
And I know Peter Woods has such a nice foundation of skills to work with, and I know
he should shine here, right?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
And I know he looked like he trimmed down a little bit this year versus the previous year, and they put him in some different alignments, and that whole Clemson defense was kind of just a hot mess this past year. So I get it.
It's hard to judge that Clemson defense.
Yeah, it's a really weird – it's like that in Penn State. Those are two programs that you see the individual talents, but the sum of the product was not
didn't live up to
where it needed to be. But for Woods – I could see him going in the top 20, but I didn't think he had as strong of a season this year as I was hoping to see the leap. Like, he reminds me of another Clemson defensive tackle and some of what he's physically capable of doing in Christian Wilkins, who was a top 15 draft choice for Miami in 2019. But Christian was really good with the block deconstruction stuff, and then he would just kind of get caught with his pads high, and it took him a couple years in the NFL to keep the pad level down to really make the leap, in which he got like a $27 million a year contract in free agency. And Peter, I thought, got stuck on blocks a little bit more often this season, and I was surprised to not see the leap there. So this event should be a great opportunity for him to maybe show some clarity as far as why that was when he sits down and has the meetings with the teams and talks about that. Because you talked about, Matt, that whole unit, it just didn't pass the sniff test of what the chemistry was versus the talent. And, teams are, I'm sure, looking to compartmentalize that disassociation here in Indy.
Okay. Last thing I got for you is kind of off-draft topic, but you're also dialed in with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
What would it take the Steelers to bring Minka back? Or could Waddle be on the move?
I would be surprised if they move Waddle.
Okay.
From everything that I have heard, both publicly and privately, the Dolphins really feel like he is a foundational building block of the roster. I think it would take a Godfather offer for him to get Pride away. I don't think they have a great appetite to move him. And John Eric Sullivan, the new general manager, his background, he played wide receiver in college. So, that's kind of
He's in
a
value
sweet
the position.
spot. Yeah. So I think Waddle is probably in play for Miami, barring some kind of massive offer. And I think for Minka, I thought he was great this year, and I was surprised.
He doesn't seem to be losing a step at all.
No,
huh? Yeah.
and it's because they were willing to move him down closer to the line of scrimmage, and I know that's always like a fine balance for Minka. In Miami, he didn't want to live on the second level.
Maybe he can go from Miami to Pittsburgh to Miami to Pittsburgh.
To Pittsburgh, and they play
a lot of people do that in the wintertime, guys.
Right,
Right,
that's a
the
good point.
snowbirds.
Right. Yeah.
It's just vice versa. He wants to go play up north in the
But he did play
wintertime.
closer to the line. He wasn't just
Yes.
a deep middle guy.
Yeah, so they kind of had this juggling. I think they were on their 6th nickel player by week 8 last year. So, and it became
Kohu's
Minka.
a guy I like, too. It's hitting the free agent market.
Yeah.
No one knows who he is around here, but he's a good player,
Cater
too.
Kohu's a very good player,
Yeah.
an inside-outside corner. Now, what's the recovery like from the ACL that he had the first weekend in training camp? That will probably dictate whether or not he has a market at all. But if you want somebody who can
He's
tackle,
nasty.
can play
Yeah.
man coverage, can disrupt route timing, he's going to be 28, so he doesn't have like a long shelf life because that age 30 for corners is such an unforgiving age for a lot of guys. But he's a really good player when he's healthy.
There's a couple Dolphins I have my eye on for the Steelers.
Yeah.
He's one of them, yeah.
Last one for you. John Eric Sullivan at the podium earlier said, I believe it was, everything's on the table regarding Tua. What do you think his future looks like here in the next few months?
Yeah, so I don't think he's back in Miami. I think the Dolphins have kind of accepted the fact that there's going to be sunk cost with this situation. They're either going to designate him as a post-June 1st cut when the league year starts on March 11th, or I could see them potentially holding him on the roster through the draft and into the summertime to see if a team strikes out on a quarterback in the draft and in
Maybe
free
there's an
agency,
injury or something.
or maybe there's an injury, and maybe then you can get somebody to pay $8 to $10 million of the contract in the trade, and you eat the other $44 million of it. Or
You don't think it
46.
could be like an Osweiler deal where it's like 2 and a third for a 7th.
I'd be
just
surprised
to dump him.
just because John Eric Sullivan's talked about how the draft picks are like the lifeblood of the franchise.
That's
and
more important than the cap space.
He's already talked about they need to get 2 or 3 more draft picks.
So he's not stealing any.
I would be stunned if they sent a premium pick out just to offload the money because they're not going to be active in free agency because of their cap situation anyway.
What would make it cost?
4?
We could talk about that.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk on there.
How my people call your people.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. I mean, you drop a Godfather reference. That's right in our wheelhouse. We love it. Great stuff. Kyle Krabs, Locked On NFL Scouting. Make sure you're checking out all his work there. Thanks for taking the time in a busy week.
Of course. Great chatting with you guys.
Enjoy the combine. It's a blast.
Oh,
Yes,
it certainly is. Certainly is. It could be a little warmer outside, but we're just getting warmed up in here. It is The Drive live on Radio Row inside the Indiana Convention Center. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is live coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine on Steelers Nation Radio, a part of the Steelers Audio Network.
Rolling along here, it is The Drive live from Indianapolis, the Indy 500-ish edition of The Drive here live on Radio
Fast
Row.
and Furious.
That's one thing. We've done most of the things here in our decade of time and spending a week here every February. And I know February is not necessarily racing season in the North, but I would like to get over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at some point, check it out. I've
I
heard
bet it's awesome.
Incredible.
Yeah, I've become an F1 fan the last 2 years or so. I don't know much about Indy, but I bet it's a blast. One of our bowl games when I was at Pitt, though, was at Charlotte, and we went to the Charlotte Speedway,
Nice.
and all the players, including myself and the coaches, did 3 laps in the car.
That's cool.
There were a couple of linemen that couldn't get in the window, though.
I'm sure. It
was tighter than you think.
It's much tighter than you think.
But
That's
it's like
great.
me and a professional driver doing 3 laps. Like, this is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's shocking how steep those banks are, too.
I believe it.
Yeah.
You're like
they'd be hard to walk up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you were
Like
at the
driving
bottom
sideways.
to walk up on, it's like, wow.
That's one of those things. Like I don't sit around and watch NASCAR or F1 or anything on TV, but I think being there would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
It would be so much fun. We are here in Indianapolis all week. A little bit of a shorter segment here as we had
2 good beefy ones.
two
there,
great guests in Dane Brugler and Kyle Krabs to kick off our coverage here of The Drive live from Radio Row. Matt, just some GM news of the day because it is a little funny the way this whole process works.
Mm-hmm.
Today is by far the busiest day on Radio Row.
Oh, yeah, GM day.
But the players don't actually get on the fields for workouts until Thursday. So we're still 2 days away.
I don't even think they're in Indy.
I think they are. Defense, the first group is here, and they do media. I think it's defensive
medical
line and
media,
linebackers.
yeah.
I want to say they do medical and media stuff today and tomorrow. And then, no one is actually on the field, the on-field portion of this, until Thursday. But today is the busiest
then Friday,
day.
Radio Row's
Gone.
It's pretty much
and
half of this.
That's where I was going with this. Is you think it would be crazier towards the back half of the week when all the on-field stuff is going on, but it's the opposite. It's crazier today because that's when all the GMs and the head coaches speak.
Yep, and that's why everybody, including us, come when we do.
Exactly
the
right.
GMs don't want to be speaking while they should be watching drills.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So with that, we will. Omar Khan, he spoke at the Podium earlier. He spoke to Matt and Rob on SNR this morning. We will hear a little bit from Omar Khan in hour 3 of this show, Matt. But plenty of GMs around the NFL speaking today. With that,
I haven't caught up with any of it. I'm sure there's some nuggets here and there.
There is, and one of those was what we just discussed with Kyle. That the Dolphins saying everything's on the table with Tua. That's one of those. Everything's on the table is pretty non-committal, which makes me think that there's a really good chance he's not back there.
I'd be
next
shocked.
Year. Yeah.
I mean, I thought that even before Kyle mentioned it. I can't imagine him being part of the plan.
I agree with you on that.
New coaching staff, and
And speaking of speculation around a quarterback, according to the Houston Texans' Nick Cassero, their GM, any trade talk regarding C.J. Stroud is, quote, moronic and not something that they're considering. He's going to be playing quarterback for the Houston Texans in 2026. We are not trading that guy. He's our quarterback.
Which also makes me think, I mean, he's in the Broderick Jones class where it's fifth-year option time, but it's also, with a quarterback, you usually just don't fifth-year option them and then become a lame duck after that. I think it's extension time for Stroud. I understand how poorly he played. I was a big believer and warned people, before the Steelers-Texans playoff game, this guy's a lot better than he's given credit for, and then he didn't play like that at all.
And then he played some of the worst games of his career. 2
back-to-back ones that mattered most, but I think it's still a pretty easy decision for them. You build around them.
Even the quote unquote risk of giving him a long-term extension feels like less of a risk than let's go with door number 2, option B.
I mean, the risk is you end up like the Dolphins are with Tua. Like they gave him an extension, it didn't work out, and now you're really hamstrung. It's hard to get out of. But
you can also get.
I don't
much
like door
worse
number
than
B
CJ
at all.
Stroud.
Yeah, because I think door number 1, Stroud, is better than he's shown.
Agreed.
I think he's a franchise quarterback. There's 12 of them around.
I'm with you on that. He's still in his mid-20s.
Yes.
He's still got plenty of time to figure it out.
And they've never really given him a running game.
That would certainly help. More kind of quarterback-centric news here. New Atlanta Falcons GM Ian Cunningham informed Kirk Cousins and the media recently that the team will release him on the first day of the new league year, which will be March 11th.
Okay.
So
it doesn't mean he can't come back on March 12th.
Absolutely.
Right. It's a lot of contractual stuff.
But Kirk Cousins will, at least seemingly, and he added that they won't re-sign him.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Said that as well.
I thought he might come back in that same capacity.
Same,
okay.
And I guess, hey, you never know. And there's,
yeah,
not everything they say at the podium ends up, 100% being true.
That's definitely part. Yeah.
That's just part of this business and operation. But he will be released, according to Ian Cunningham, on March 11th, and won't be re-signed.
Okay. I don't know that he'll have much of a market, but I could see him in Minnesota, kind of chaperoning a McCarthy or something like that. That's why I thought Atlanta might want to bring him back. My hunch is they just want to dig into Penix and say sink or swim.
Sink or swim.
That's why you're here. What I find interesting and not great from a Falcons perspective is many of us criticize them. You just gave Cousins huge money, and then you used the early first on a quarterback. And the Falcons' rebuttal was, well, yeah, but now we'll be set a quarterback for years to come. Well, here we sit. You're not set a quarterback for years to come,
It's a very difficult process to nail.
Yeah, it is.
Finding, procuring, developing your franchise quarterback. And then finally, Matt, you know what? Actually, we need to get to a break here. We'll do a couple more of the news of the day type things when we return on the other side. We'll continue to nab some guests. We're going to catch up with our buddy Q Myers from Locked On Raiders, get his thoughts on Patrick Graham and Fernando Mendoza. So plenty more to get to. 1 hour in the books, 2 hours still to go here live on Radio Row. It is a on-location edition of The Drive. We are inside the Indiana Convention Center, all part of our ongoing coverage of the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is continuing coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine. Live from Indianapolis on the Steelers Audio Network. Presented by First National Bank. Can your bank do that? Welcome to FNB. Let's get started. Member FDIC. Iron Workers Local Union number 3. We don't go to the office, we build it. Schneider Downs. Discover the value of big thinking with a personal focus at SchneiderDowns.com. Your neighborhood Ford store. The Ford F-150 is the official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by U.S. Steel. Mine melted, made in the USA.
Hour number 2 of The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio, live from Radio Row inside the Indiana Convention Center, all part of our ongoing Combine coverage. Hour 2 of The Drive, hour 7 of day 1 here, Matt.
How about that?
This is always kind of the craziest, beefiest day with all the moving and shaking of the GMs and the head coaches. Our programming was a little thrown for a loop today. You were kind enough to sub in a few spots. I had to do the same.
Yeah.
Because Pursuta was tied up all day, and Rob had to bounce out a little bit. But after today, our programming will be a little more static throughout the rest of the week.
You'll know what you're getting tomorrow and the next day in terms of where we'll all be at the right times and all that good stuff.
But you will have Matt and I, bonus edition of The Drive here every single day, except for Friday. Friday, I believe, we'll do our normal 2 hours, I want to say. But every other day, you get the bonus content here on The Drive. Plenty of good guests, plenty of moving and shaking live on Radio Row. We continue kind of pick up where we left off at the end of the first hour, Matt, and that is just discussing the news of the day here, as many GMs across the National Football League spoke. We'll get to Omar Khan specifically as we roll along here. But it sounds like Breece Hall, this is another conversation you and I have had a couple times over the last few weeks. What are the Jets going to do with Breece Hall? Could he become a free agent and then I think would be one of the more valued free agent weapons in this class? Well, Jets GM Darren Mogley made it clear Tuesday that the plan is to retain Breece Hall. He said, ideally, we'll find a way to get a deal done and keep Breece around. I've said that for the past year since I got here. Breece is a good player, and we want to find a way to keep him around. We've been going through the process and are still doing so. We have a week to find out. If we can't get an agreement, we will go with the tag.
Yeah, and this doesn't shock me, but if you told me a couple of weeks ago this is a move they were going to make, it would shock me.
Okay.
In that I think like a lot of our listeners probably are going, the Jets are terrible. They might get first pick in the draft. They need all the youth they can get. Why are they franchising a running back who doesn't have a real long shelf life? And I think there is some logic behind it in that maybe they'll have a young quarterback. And I do think having a versatile, good pass-catching running back is a nice whoopee for a young quarterback.
Sure.
You know, dump the ball out there, hand it to him. Just take a lot off of your plate as a young quarterback as opposed to not having even an above-average starter in that role. But more interesting to me is, I think we brought this up a couple weeks ago, the Jets have so much cap space that it's almost hard to spend.
You got to hit the floor, too.
You got to hit the floor. And if they franchise him, well, that's a guaranteed chunk for this year. As the GM mentioned, though, they might try to extend him, and let's say it's a 3-year deal. Well, the beauty of that is give him a very, very front-loaded contract, which he'll love. You know, sign me up. I'll take all this guaranteed money.
He's been on his
right
rookie deal as I think he was a second-round pick, so he's not making pennies, but he's not making –
this would be a huge bump.
It'd be a nice payday, yes.
And especially with the signing bonus and a big chunk up front, it's like, yeah, that's way more than I've probably made to date. I'll sign me up. I could blow up my knee tomorrow like any running back or any player. So that would be appealing to him. And let's say you have a real heavy front-loaded 3-year deal because you have the money. Well, let's say this season goes as terrible as you thought, and at the trade deadline you have 1 win or 2 wins or something like that, and the Chiefs come calling saying, hey, I know you just re-signed Breece Hall, but you know he's not really doing you guys a lot of good right now.
And you paid him a lot of that guaranteed money up front.
That's the thing is you can maybe – I would give up more if I'm Kansas City or the buying team because they did all the financial work for you.
Maybe you'd give up a second-round pick if the finances fit for you as opposed to a third-round pick if you were going to be on the hook for more money.
Right. You probably get at least a round bump up for the Jets. So, okay. I mean, he's an asset that if you let him walk, maybe you would get a comp pick for him in return. But that means you didn't sign anybody on your own, and they're going to sign people like crazy on their own. You know, right. So might as well use them to some degree, and then maybe trade them for a profit.
Finally, Matt, last piece of kind of news of this afternoon that I wanted to run by you. We heard from Las Vegas Raiders general manager John Spytek, and he said he expects Max Crosby to play for the team in 2026 despite the trade speculation. And I quote, Max is an elite player, and I've been very upfront from the start when I got here that we're in the business of having really good players on the team, and we need a lot more of them. I learned a long time ago, always listen. I learned a long time ago, always listen. I am listening. However, he is a priority for them to keep and play for the team in the 2026 season. Truth to that, trying to control the narrative and keep your leverage, how much stock do you put into that?
First, I've heard of it, but my hunch is – first off, I don't think the GM's going to say, yeah, we're trading.
Right, because then you lose your leverage.
You lose a little bit of leverage. There's no doubt about that. I don't know the timeline like the back of my hand, but I think when Crosby came out and basically said I'd like to get moved, the Super Bowl hadn't happened yet, and they had not hired this coaching staff. So he's mad at the old staff for shutting him down and how it went, and I don't see a future here. But maybe he sat down with Brady and Spytek and the new coaching staff and said, hey, we're going to draft Mendoza first overall. We got a ton of cap space. We plan on rebuilding the offensive line, putting a lot around you. We'd like to bring you back, Max. And even kind of like we talked about with Breece Hall, too, That doesn't mean they don't deal him at the trade deadline. I mean, if the season goes terrible, a team in the hunt might give you the Lions or the Bills or whoever might give you a bunch for him then. But I also think it's kind of been reported that there has been conversations with the new staff and Max. So maybe they're both in a better place and he's happy to stay there. Because even a year ago he said, I want to retire a Raider. I want to be an all-time great Raider, which I respect. And maybe this got the sour taste out of his mouth. All that being said, I think you could get him for a pretty – I mean, you'd have to give up a lot, a first plus, but I think he could be obtained if you're the Ravens.
Yes, which I would not like. But
but I keep thinking if I were them, I might call.
Yeah, because I keep seeing articles linking Trey Hendrickson to Baltimore, but that just – unless he's completely, a free he's not tagged or anything by Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not going to trade him to Baltimore.
No, of course.
Is where I'm going with that.
But he'll be up.
But yes, absolutely. Matt, you wanted to get into Greg Rosenthal's list of top free agents here.
That's a very good one.
In 2026. And a couple notes. League free agency officially opens Wednesday, March 11th. So that's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay. Wow, that's faster than I thought.
I know. That's when the new league year.
That week is nuts and fun, too.
It's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and especially because on Monday is when they call it now negotiating window. Remember, it used to be the legal tampering period.
So we'll learn a lot
starting that
Monday. Yeah.
Of when teams are allowed to enter.
So that's 2 weeks from yesterday.
The legal window, the negotiating window now that they're calling it, opens, in 13 days.
Great. Okay.
So we'll have plenty in that department.
I got some more free agent homework to do. I thought I was on top of it, but it's coming quicker than I thought.
And Matt, very interesting because at the top of this list, this is not surprising, but it is Malik Willis as
It's a little surprising.
Is it? Yeah, as Rosenthal's number one rated free agent. A little surprising to you? I mean, I guess when you consider more accomplished Tyler Linderbaums and some of these guys, I guess I get what you're saying.
And I did hear Greg Rose. I actually saw him walk by, and we tried to grab him if we can at some point. But I heard him on a podcast saying, "Yeah, I did take positional value into it," and basically his thoughts were kind of what I was saying: is, well, can Willis be a franchise quarterback? If the answer isn't 100% no, like there's a chance. Well, isn't that the most valuable thing out there? And so she should be one. I mean, shouldn't he be ahead of a borderline Pro Bowl center if he maybe can be a franchise quarterback? Okay, that doesn't mean he's going to get paid the most in the league. And I had my Willis stance before this ever came out, but it's the same logic. Is if you could get the guy 20 to 28 million, something like that, probably 25-ish, you may have answered your question.
It's funny, too. NFL.com has an article up of free agency fits. And they have Malik.
Oh, it's a different article, right?
A different one has Malik Willis to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, I mean, hey, when you consider the money, when you consider the timing, I do think it has to be a real option, but obviously how that coincides with the Aaron Rodgers timeline because Malik Willis –
this is going to happen in 2 weeks.
Monday, his agent's phone is going to be ringing. When that negotiation period starts, he's not going to be one of those guys who's waiting around and you've got some time to spare. You're going to have to strike while the iron's hot with him.
Yeah, we had Kyle on. I don't think Miami would be – they'd have a hard time doing it financially, but they did just hire a bunch of Packers people, including their head coach, who I would imagine is very happy with Willis. I've heard Arizona a lot. But mostly the teams that he's been associated with are really the teams picking like in the top 5. It's not going to be the Raiders. I would think if you're the Steelers and you're interested, which I am, I don't know if they are, you should be able to outbid those teams. I mean, it's certainly in terms of attractiveness and destination. Right.
It's like, hey, you've been with multiple organizations.
Yeah.
You just came from a stable one in Green Bay and saw what that looks like. Do you really want to go to Arizona or Miami or New York? And
we'll put more around you and use a first-round pick on a receiver and maybe even add another receiver for
look
you.
At these young offensive linemen that we have that we're building together. Number 2 on this list is George Pickens. Not a big surprise there.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
I don't think he's going anywhere, whether it's a tag or something long-term. They'll figure it out. Number 3, Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, I think he's going to get paid heavy.
He's only. I didn't realize
he's pretty young.
I didn't realize he's only 27.
Yeah.
I mean, he really
accomplished pretty
He really leveled up this season.
Yes.
And he continued that I think it says a lot for somebody when you get traded and you kind of continue your form in the sense of new scheme, new surroundings, new teammates, and you didn't miss a beat. I think that says a lot about your talent level. And I didn't realize, but he's just 27 years old. I mean, he could argue his best is still to come.
Yeah, you probably get a nice 3-year contract out of him and maybe get all 3 of those, as a highly productive player. More of a 4-3 type D end. I mean, he's not for the Steelers, of course, but he's going to be sought after in a big way. You probably remember, but he basically retired when he was at UCLA for medical reasons, and then went to Miami, the University of Miami.
Yes.
Also was a Dolphin, and got a clean bill of health, and he's been a phenomenal player since. But he's super talented, and I don't think the medicals are an issue at this point.
Number 4, Tyler Linderbaum. 26 years old, one of the better centers in the NFL. The Ravens brass said today at the podium that they want to keep Linderbaum and they want to extend Lamar Jackson. Those are their off-season priorities. How realistic is it that they can get Linderbaum done?
I think they're going to be fighting with 5 teams, all of whom have more money,
more
than
cap
them.
space, yeah.
Including the Harbaugh brothers. I think both make a ton of sense. There's a lot of Ravens connections all of a sudden across the league. I bet he's not back.
I would be. I think. I mean, they're already got some cap issues.
I could see him getting overpaid, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't be useful.
Sure.
Right.
But again, like we've talked about, a lot of these teams have a lot of cap space, and they got to use it somewhere.
Cap space, yeah.
Number 5 on this list, Matt, Alec Pierce. That's very high on this list.
It is.
I mean, I realize the ridiculous 21.8 yards per reception over the last 2 years, but he seems to me to be the prime candidate to be insanely overpaid here in a couple weeks.
I think so, too. I think he's a really good player, but I think he's a 2 all day long, and he's not a T. Higgins 2. I mean, he's a middle-of-the-road 2 good player.
He's
ascending.
He's a B student who's going to get valedictorian money here in a couple
good way
weeks.
of putting it. I do think one thing to keep an eye on from a Steelers perspective, though, is if he gets franchised or extended by the Colts, which has been heavily rumored to. They love him, and they've invested in him. I think Pittman becomes very available.
Which you would be interested in.
Yeah, I think Pittman's a go-over-the-middle, dirty work, tough guy. If you get released, all of a sudden you get to have a new contract conversation with him. The one he has now is not terrible, but I think it's expiring at the end of the year, which they probably won't invest more in him, of course. I think he'd be a fan favorite around here.
I do too.
Yeah.
Number 6.
I mean, Pittman, Metcalf, and a second-round pick at receiver. Okay, and that first rounder is like best available. Truly, yeah, it's not so bad.
I'd be willing to maybe commit to that as opposed to taking door number 2 at this point.
Yeah, that might be a winner for me.
Number 6, Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, he's going to get paid heavy too. I bet he goes to a contender though.
He's not
going to be in the Steelers mix.
He seems like a guy who might take a little bit less to go to a Lions or a Bears. He's 31. He hasn't made insane money, but he's made good money.
Good money, yeah.
Number 7, one of my draft crushes here a few years ago, Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, he's come on huge. One of the top 5-ish linebackers in the league.
Those guys don't hit the open market at age 27 very often.
Especially coming off the year he did. I think they're really regretting not slapping the 5th-year tag on him a year ago. I mean, because he was a fundamental player for him. He's going to get paid a lot of money. If the Steelers were to move on from Queen, I'd make a call, but I can't imagine that happening.
Probably might be more expensive than Queen.
He would be,
at this point. Yeah. Number 8 on this list, Matt, Daniel Jones from right across the street here, Lucas Oil Stadium, the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to have Matt Taylor on at some point, too, this week.
I'm going to join him, too.
Yeah, he told me that he was having you on, and he was like, if you guys want to if I can jump on with you guys at any point, let me know. And we said absolutely. Matt's a good guy.
I'd like to ask him about Anthony Richardson and Pittman and
some of these same things, and just, can they get back to the start of the season that they had last year? Daniel Jones, his health, his performance level, obviously a big part of that equation.
I can't imagine them parting ways. I don't know how you work on that contract. That's a tough negotiation right now with him being injured. But, boy, player and coach or player and team should be wildly happy with how that went. And it's the same staff coming back.
Yes. It could not have gone better from that standpoint with him in terms of how that gamble paid off Achilles injury. Number 9, Odafe Oweh.
Came on strong for the Chargers. I mean, after that trade in particular, one of these guys that was a project coming out of Penn State. People remember he didn't have a sack.
Yeah.
Sometimes projects just take a little while, but they hit. People don't like the word project, but sometimes that project comes through, man.
He's
going to get paid well, too.
You're speaking Arthur Moates' language.
He likes that.
The dirty P words: project, potential, patience. He was like, that gets you fired at the NFL NFL level. But sometimes they pay off.
Sometimes they pay off.
They certainly do. Number 10, reigning Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker.
Maybe they will let him test the water. There's been no rumblings that he'll get franchised. We already heard Hall will. But Charbonnet's coming off an injury.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a lot of other guys to pay. I'm not sure what to think of that. I wonder if he will hit the open market.
Same, because when you consider, like you said, Charbonnet's coming off a big injury that happened at the end of the season, or in the playoffs, actually, didn't it, in their first playoff game.
Yeah.
So he's not, his status for the beginning of the year will certainly be compromised. And just, I know that this is not how these people operate. And by these people, I mean general managers and everything. But, man, having a guy who's your Super Bowl MVP and then is not on the roster the next year.
Who knows a good player.
That's who's a 25-year-old running back.
Yeah.
That's some weird PR with your fan base of like, this guy was just the Super Bowl MVP a few months ago, and now we're going to let him walk.
And they might be we're not investing in running back type of team, or we're not going to give second contracts to running backs. And I understand that logic, but this isn't a great running back draft class either. They're not going to end up with Love, and the other guys are a noticeable drop-off. You would think you might want to change the way you view things just to try to win the Super Bowl again, coming off a win.
You're still, that window is still certainly wide open.
And he's really good.
Matt, if Kenneth Walker does end up being available on the open market, would he fit the bill of the Houston Texans improving that run game around C.J. Stroud that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I was immediately thinking Chiefs, but I could see the Texans being all in on that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
A 25-year-old has the playoff pedigree.
Sure.
That seems like something that they could really use.
Maybe draft another lineman and go from there.
Yeah. I want to go over some more of these names on this list with Matt. We'll continue to get some guests as we roll along here.
Maybe we'll do this when we get back home, too. But, I mean, that week leading up to free agency is going to be a lot of free agency preview. Like, there's some guys probably 60 through 101 on this list that I like a lot for the Steelers. I mean, some safeties and nickel corners.
Some second-wave value. Second-wave value guys.
Yeah, not top 10 guys.
Again, not the valedictorians.
Right.
But the B-plus students that you can get at a really good price.
Maybe a veteran guard if Siamalu leaves or something like that.
We'll continue to discuss all of that and more as we roll along here on The Drive on this Tuesday. We are live on Radio Row inside the Indiana Convention Center. It is all part of our ongoing Combine coverage here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is live coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine on Steelers Nation Radio, a part of the Steelers Audio Network.
Rocking and rolling live on Radio Row here. It is The Drive. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, saving the best for last here on our 8 hours of coverage every single day from Radio Row. We are going to talk to our buddy Q Myers from Locked On Raiders. We'll get all his thoughts on Patrick Graham and, of course, Fernando Mendoza here in just a few minutes. He will join us in our final segment of this 3 o'clock hour. But, Matt, you mentioned how on the back end of these free agent lists, there's some names that you would be interested in for the Steelers. So I want to run a few by you at certain positions.
Do you want to do this? Do you just want to rapid fire every name and I'll go no, yes? Yes.
Okay, yes, but at certain positions. Like, I'm not going to do offensive tackles like Braden Smith,
No, but I would say guard.
Yes.
Safety.
Yes.
Maybe an outside corner.
Okay.
Wide receiver.
Okay.
I would prefer to draft a D tackle. A lot of the D tackles are old in this group. They're
Agreed.
30 plus.
Agreed.
I can't think of another position that has my interest.
All right, so we've got a baseline here. Let's roll through some names. Romeo Doubs.
Yes. Frankly, of all the free agent to be, not necessarily the tradable guys, Doubs is my favorite. And Rashid Shaheed is probably second for what I think they'll cost. Like Pierce is a slightly better player than those guys, but I think he's an outprice himself and not worth the money. I think Doubs could be a real suitable 2 that if you turn into a 3,
Then you're talking.
And now you're really talking. He does have some Rodgers background. He obviously has some Packers background. He had to overlap with McCarthy, I assume, maybe his rookie year. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But he's a solid player, and he's on the rise. We're scheduled to have Matt Harmon on tomorrow.
Nice.
And I definitely want to ask him about Dobbs because he really pointed out, too, that he and Pierce really stepped up this season, and I think that's noteworthy.
Brian Cook, safety.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so just over the last 48, 72 hours, I've been thinking about the secondary more and more, and especially after Omar spoke. And this is sort of Mike Pursuita's words, who listened to both press conferences before Omar sat down with us, made it sound like we had talked about there's a chance Queen and or Ramsey could be opening up salary. You could cut them for salary cap space. And I think there's an argument for both because you get a nice cap relief for both players, but you also open up a need.
Yes.
Ramsey, I don't think Queen's, especially after what Omar said today, I don't think there's any chance Queen gets cut. And frankly, I don't think Ramsey will get cut. But I wonder, and I'm just reading the tea leaves, I felt more and more like Ramsey might be back to slot corner.
And you're back in the safety market.
And then you're really in the safety market.
Looking for
it's like Elliott and nobody else.
Yes.
So there's probably 5 names on this list, and I guess Cook is the first one that popped up, that are an upgrade athletically. I think you need to add
and
speed.
You've been talking about that since
Yes.
the middle of the season.
And when we're talking about defensive back additions, I think speed's going to be required for me. And they're both. I think all the names that are going to be on this list at the safety position are coming off their first contract, and they're not going to be freebies. They're good quality players, but they're on the rise. And a safety on the open market's not going to be insanely expensive either. So I could see a safety from without on this list from outside the team being your starter next to Elliott, Ramsey back in the slot, go from there, which I wouldn't have any problem with.
Staying with someone from the Chiefs secondary, what about Jalen Watson?
I think he'd be an upgrade as your outside corner. That would be like instead of Pierre.
Right.
Good player. I think people would like him a lot. And this isn't Watson's fault, but one thing, Spagnuolo is known as a great defensive back coach and, gets the most out of those guys. Almost every defensive back, especially corners, when they've left the Chiefs during the Spagnuolo era, they're not as good as when they were with the Chiefs.
Yes.
It's just something to be aware of.
Another cornerback potential, Alontae Taylor from the Saints.
This one's actually my favorite.
Okay.
About 50% of his snaps in the slot, about 50% of his snaps outside. Now, that may counteract the whole Ramsey conversation, because I would want to use him in both ways. This would probably get you out of the Pierre market or the Samuel market. Like, he would probably be in 2 corner sets, it's him and Porter. But he is very position versatile. I think he's an ascending player, too. He can play man coverage, so I don't think he'll be as cheap as people would think, but he's a good player, too.
A couple of names from the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks secondary. Kobe Bryant, not the, of course, dearly departed legendary basketball player, but the 27-year-old safety.
Decent. I would look for more of an athletic upgrade, though.
Yeah. I know you want that athlete on the back end.
Speed.
Tariq Woolen.
Real hit or miss.
I don't know. I feel like he's so system specific.
He's very system specific, and he's only an outside corner. He's like 6'3", 6'4". His rookie year was awesome. He's super fast, but boy, he's a roller coaster.
Staying local here in Indianapolis, Nick Cross, 24-year-old safety who had a real good year last year.
Probably my favorite of the safety crews I mentioned. I don't know that it cost a ton.
He's only
24, right. I mean, you go look up like his combine numbers. They're really, really good. He plays fast. He's not as much of a true center fielder as we've been used to, but I think that's going to be an interchangeable role under this offensive coordinator.
Sticking with safety, seems like Cameron Curl is out in L.A. after they extended Quentin Lake, Carnell Lake's son.
Yeah.
Cameron Curl, 27 years old.
Yeah, a little older than the other safeties. He wouldn't be in my 4 or 5 list. He's a good player. I'd rather get younger. He's not a great athlete, and he's more strong than free, although that line gets blurred more and more every year,
Let's stay with the safeties here. Another 27-year-old Jaquan Brisker.
Maybe.
He's like an enforcer
Yeah.
thumper, though. You want somebody more that can move.
Yeah, and there's some injury stuff there with him, too, a lot. His flashes are great, but I don't think.
If it doesn't, if there's not a reunion with Isaac Seumalo, would you be interested in a guy like Wyatt Teller, another veteran offensive lineman?
Maybe. There's a couple guards on this list that I would be interested in because I do think it's important to have one veteran in that room. And not that Frazier and these guys are now puppies anymore. They've started a lot of games. But I think having the older guy.
They're all on their rookie
Yeah.
contract. I mean, now that they've started, 20-some games, 30-some games, those guys, it's great. But they're still all on their rookie deals.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind one elder statesman and draft others as well, just O-line in general. Teller would be fine. There's others I like a little better.
Back to the corner department here. Nanshawn Wright out of Chicago.
Coming off a really productive year. He had a ton of picks.
27, so he's still a few years away from that 30-year-old mark that we talk about with corners.
He's like 6'4". I mean, he's strange, attributes. Good player. I'm not sure I trust the 1 year out of nowhere production.
Cordero Flott out of the Giants, just 25 years old.
Yeah, more of a slot, but he could do both. I would understand it. I mean, ideally, I think he'd be a really strong third corner, but that's not how the league works. Usually you don't have that luxury.
What about another Seattle Seahawk, Joshua Jobe?
Really assignment sound, smart, quality player, not real dynamic. But if you're going to give Porter big money and you just want somebody solid on the other side, I think he'd fit that bill.
Monteric Brown, also just 27 years old, coming off a good year with Jacksonville.
Coming off a real good year. I don't know as much about him because he was like a 7th-round pick or an undrafted guy. He doesn't have the pedigree and the background that everybody else would have in this group. So I'd like to learn more. I wonder what he'd cost, but definitely ascending and the age you're looking for.
Same team, same position, relatively same age, just a year younger, Greg Newsome.
Tough one. Because a couple years ago, I mean, the Browns drafted him first round.
I was going to say, I thought he was first round, yeah.
Yeah, and he's long. He's built more like an outside guy. The Browns didn't really have any other slot options, so he had to do that. He was okay. There was that weird corner-for-corner swap between the Browns and the Jags, and neither one really flourished in their new home. He's had some up-and-down moments, but he's smart, and he's got the traits.
Another safety here, Jalen Thompson, just finishing out his third, the 3-year contract with the Arizona Cardinals, 28 years old.
I think he's a smidge older than I'd prefer. I'd love to get like a 25-year-old safety.
I'm trying to see if there's any of those left on the list. I don't think there is, but we know. No, not Kevin Byard. He's not 25.
No, I don't think I'm not doing that.
He's much longer in the tooth. Yeah, Matt, I think that's it in terms. Oh, Reed Blankenship, 27 years old.
Yeah, I think I'm looking for a better athlete.
I think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm with you on
Quality
that one.
player, but yeah.
I'm certainly with you on that one. But that does it for kind of the positions of need that we've earmarked for the Steelers. Calvin Austin on this list at 100.
So is it just Seumalo and Austin in the top 100?
Aaron Rodgers as well.
Rodgers,
he was
yeah,
60.
Okay,
I want to say 61, something in that range there.
He's sort of a asterisk by him.
Kenneth Gainwell, 65.
Oh, Gainwell. Okay.
Yep.
That makes
and
sense.
Rodgers was 62.
Okay.
Let's see, but yeah, I think that about does it for that conversation. That's interesting to me, Matt. So it seems like we've nailed down the two in the secondary that if it comes to it, you would like to add. Safety Nick Cross, who's 24 years old, former Indianapolis Colt, and Alontae Taylor, former Saint.
Definitely be two targets as well as the Chiefs safety too that we talked about. There was also a young pup.
Brian Cook.
Yeah. Athletes that are young.
Hey, we like that. We will take that certainly, and especially in that secondary where I think you're right. You've been harping on it for a long time, but I'm definitely on the same page as you. You want some speed. You need some speed in that secondary, and we'll see.
If they draft a third-round safety or corner and they're a year away, I would totally understand it, especially if Pierre's in the mix or something like that. If they can run, they got to be. It's like important to me.
You talk about it. We were joking about it. The Mendoza line of your quarterback has to be at least this athletic.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of a similar conversation in the secondary.
Yeah, and it's not always. I just think the way that this secondary is built now, I need somebody that's faster.
Remember, negotiating window opens Monday, March 9th. That's 13 days from now. NFL free agency officially opens Wednesday, March 13th. A week from tomorrow. Yeah, week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that one a little too much. When we come back on the other side, we'll close down the second hour with another fun interview. Q Hughes covers the Raiders. He's going to join us to talk about new Steelers defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, who, of course, spent the last 4 seasons in Las Vegas, and we'll obviously pick his brain a little bit on Fernando Mendoza in the future of that organization as well. All that and more as we roll along live here on Radio Row. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is live coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine on Steelers Nation Radio, a part of the Steelers Audio Network.
Back on Radio Row here, it is The Drive on location, 2026 NFL Scouting Combine, our spiritual home at the end of February every year here on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it is The Drive. This would normally, Matt, be our final segment of The Drive, but we do have the bonus hour coming up next where we'll hear from Omar Khan and discuss specifically what the Steelers GM discussed today, but that is kind of the theme of today. Different head coaches and general managers, either or, is required to speak at the Combine. So
that's how that works. It's not just GMs, right?
Yes,
mostly GMs.
Mostly GMs, but for a few it is the head coaches.
Mm-hmm. I've seen several head coaches walking around.
Yes,
too. Yeah.
And one of those who just spoke on the podium, Nick Sirianni, of course, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
and he was asked if A.J. Brown will be back next season, and he said, I can't guarantee A.J. will be back next year.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty telling for coach speak or GM
Normally
speak,
you expect we love AJ, everything's fine.
We sure hope it works out. We want to have him back. He's part of our plans, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
I bet he moves. I've thought that all along, but just the reading that makes you think he could be had.
I think so. I think so. And it seems like it's been heading towards that direction for a long time between those two parties, and maybe this is finally the offseason that it does transpire. But, as you know, one of our favorite parts about being live here on Radio Row in Indianapolis all week is the awesome guests that we get to discuss.
We've already got good ones.
We've already gotten a couple good ones. And another one, Matt and I took the time this morning to talk to Q Myers. He is the host of the Locked On Raiders podcast. He's also the program director for Las Vegas Sports. He is
very dialed in
with the Raiders organization. And so, of course, we wanted to talk to him about Fernando Mendoza. Of course, we wanted to talk to him about new Steelers defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, who was with the Raiders organization before being added to Mike McCarthy's staff. Due to just some of the timing stuff, we talked to Q earlier, you and I. Here's our conversation with Q Hughes on the Raiders, on Patrick Graham, on Fernando Mendoza. We are pleased to have a very fun guest with us here to close down this hour. Q Myers, Las Vegas Sports Network, Locked On Raiders podcast. Q, good to see you as always. Thank you for taking the time.
It's great to be with you guys, man. This is fun, right? First day of really action here at the Combine, and we're inside so it's warm, and we're not outside where it's cold.
Exactly
I'm not built for this cold, man. I'm just not built for it.
I mean, we live in it, but
we're
not built for it either. Yeah.
No, it's chilly.
Yeah,
it's windy here, too.
Stupid. It's stupid.
You're our first guest that's not the Steelers GM, so congrats.
There you go.
We've got many of them lined up.
There you go. I'll take it.
So we obviously want to talk to you plenty about Patrick Graham.
Yeah. Why would we bring a Raiders guy on? Well, let's talk. Be coordinator,
exactly
baby.
Right.
Yeah.
But just real quick, before we get to him, we got to get your thoughts on Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
Easy first overall pick. Turn the phones off, or are you maybe listening? Just what's the vibe around Mendoza and the organization?
I think you always listen, just to listen, but you don't have to react, right? I watch commercials, but don't mean I go buy every product, right? You know what I mean? It's just I think you do it, and if someone just wows you with something crazy, then maybe you really think about it. But look, the Raiders have been in a position for a long time where they haven't had their quarterback, and even when they had Derek Carr, I would say 2016 Carr was the best version of him. Once he broke his ankle, he wasn't that guy, and so they were trying to find a better version of him. And I think they have an opportunity now. Now, they've got to make a lot of good decisions. They got to build around him, and they've got to put protection around him, playmakers. But it's a step, and it's one of the most important steps, if not the most important step in building a team. So you got to go get Fernando Mendoza.
So this is going to lead into the Patrick Graham conversation, but I have great respect for Pete Carroll's career and all those things. But I didn't think it was a very well-coached team at all last year.
No,
nor do I think
wrong.
It was a very talented team. But I actually think – the Carroll and his staff and the offensive line coach, his son, really held things back that they maybe could have got more out of that group. But I think the total opposite of the defense, because I
Right.
think Graham is really specialized on here's not very good ingredients,
Right.
and he gives you a very edible meal.
He does. He does. I have
Yeah.
a lot of respect for Patrick
Do you?
Graham. I think he did a lot with very little, as you mentioned. I really do. And a lot of Raider fans didn't appreciate him. They'll tell you right now, good, I'm glad he's out of here. And I'm like, okay, right? I mean, I think he did some really good things. And really, when the Raiders started to turn their defense around, I want to say in 2023, earlier in the season, I kept telling everyone, I was like, they're only giving up 16 points a game. You should be able to win games like that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're in games. Their offense just was terrible. And so then everyone started to see that their defense played better. And then when McDaniels got fired and AP took over as the interim, then you saw the defense really tick up a notch. And you thought in 2024 their defense was going to be really good, and they got plagued with injuries. Christian Wilkins went down after 5 games. Max went down after 12 games. Malcolm Kuntz was injured in preseason. Like, it was just so many things happened. And so Patrick Graham was once again put in a position where he didn't really have dominant players, and he had to try to figure it out. And for the most part, he's done that. It's never going to be wow. It's never going to be the Seahawks defense that we just saw win the Super Bowl, but it's going to give you a chance to win games.
I mean, especially with better players.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
I mean, other than Crosby, I'm not sure how many Raiders would start for the Steelers.
No, exactly.
Right,
I
right.
mean, hell, I might as well be out there on the corner position. And believe me, I'm giving it up.
Q, what can Steelers fans expect? Like, is there a calling card of a Patrick Graham defense, or has it just been, forget having an identity, we're going to attack you in what's best on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, he has a calling card, but he also understands who he has with him, the personnel. So he's able to adjust to it. Now, the one thing that is concerning for him is that a lot of times the middle of the field will be open. That was always my big bugaboo. Like, why in the world is the middle of the field wide open? But that would be open more times than not, so that's a concern.
Okay.
But outside of that,
But he's mostly a single high guy,
he's
right?
mostly single high. You know, he doesn't mind. He likes to be able to use bump and run, but you got to have the corners to do it, right? So sometimes you got to protect these guys with zone, and so he did that. And Pete Carroll and him, they tried to collaborate their offense or their defense last year, and that didn't work. I mean, I'm talking to players in the locker room. They're like, yeah, we're still trying to figure this collaboration thing out. So that was like week 15. I'm like, well, this is over. You know, like there's if you haven't figured it out by now, you're not going to figure it out. So it's a lot of that kind of combination, going on with them. But I mean, he does, like I said, for the most part, his defense will keep you in games. And like you said, if they have really good players, which obviously the Steelers do, they'll be able to execute.
One thing that stood out to me from last year, even though it didn't go great, and I think there was a little more Carroll influence than I would have liked, the explosive play rate was really, really good on defense, and that's so key in today's NFL.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things. And he wants to, obviously, as every team does, want to create turnovers, and he harps on turnovers in practice, and he's trying to get them. And the Raiders just couldn't create turnovers. And, I mean, there was times when he was almost cussing at me and when we were at the podium asking questions, because I'm like, well, how do you get these guys to get some turnovers? He's like, man, I'm tired of talking about them. You know, and he wasn't mad at me, but he was mad at the situation because they just couldn't generate enough big plays defensively. They didn't allow the big plays, which is great, but they also didn't create the big plays. So that was the frustration. They try to get home with the front four. They don't try to blitz too often, right? And the linebackers try to do the best they can with the space eaters in front, trying to, peel off the blocks and go and make tackles. And for the most part, guys like E-Rob, who you know really well, Landon Roberts, those kind of guys, Robert Spillane, also a guy that did really well for the Raiders, they did good from the linebacker position, just being short tacklers and being able to get off those blocks.
Not the rangiest guys. But
Not the rangiest guys, but they can get off the blocks.
When you talk about kind of how he likes to deploy his secondary, single high, bump and run when you can, we've had a lot of conversation around Jalen Ramsey and him this offseason. And do you keep him on the roster as a full-time safety? Do you try and still use him as like the big nickel type?
Yeah.
Do you think he's a fit in a Patrick Graham defense?
I think he could be. I would put him – there's a couple options. I'd put him at either at the safety position or even put him in the big nickel position. Why not, right? I mean, and that's kind of how they tried to use and now I'm forgetting his name, Jeremy Chin. They tried to use him in the big
More
nickel type role. But they had him at the safety role, kind of have him like a hybrid guy that could just run around the field and make some plays. I think Jalen Ramsey still has that ability and even better than a Jeremy Chin would. So I think that would be a really good chess piece. And that's the thing. I mean, this guy, he's all football all the time. Like, he's thinking football all the time and always trying to come up with something new and creative. And, what is he seeing? What is the trends that he's seeing and how he can defeat them? So he's a very smart, sharp guy. And so I've always respected what Patrick Graham has to do when he's doing his defenses.
Q, I know you need to run. You're busy too. But there's two names you brought up that I just wanted to mention real quick. It seemed like they gave Max Crosby a lot of freedom at the line of scrimmage, which is rare for a defensive lineman. Could that be a Watt thing in Pittsburgh? And a strange question for you is the Christian Wilkins situation. Like, do you have any insight to that?
I have no idea what's going on with that situation. I think that there's a hearing that's going to be coming up pretty soon before the league year opens up to find out what money they owe him, what money they don't owe him.
I'd love the Steelers to grab him for nothing right now.
I mean,
if it's all clear.
I don't know if you do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. From
what I've heard, there's been some weird things that were happening that maybe you don't want in the locker room. But it's
pretty telling he didn't get picked up yet.
Thank you.
I mean, I know. But
a talented dude like that tells you all you need to know. So in a very forgiving league, the fact that he wasn't picked up by anyone
might be the answer to the question.
Yeah, exactly. So Max, and he does get that freedom. I think T.J. Watt's going to really like Patrick Graham, and I know Patrick Graham's going to love T.J. Watt because he makes more play. I mean, I say this all the time. Max is a tier below, in my opinion, T.J., Miles, Micah. There's Max.
Yeah, I agree.
Those guys make difference.
Right below.
Right below, which is still a great level. Don't get me wrong. A lot of Raider fans get mad at me, and I'm like, no. But T.J. Watt comes
I say
up
Myles
with,
Garrett's better than Watt, too.
Yeah,
Everybody hates me here.
They come up with the bigs, the strip sacks. They come up with the interceptions. They come up with the fumble recoveries. They come up with those different making plays that gives them a chance to really be special. So that I think they're going to do really well.
You think that's a good fit?
Yeah, facts, big facts, yes.
Hugh Myers, Locked On Raiders podcast, kind enough to lend us some of his time here on Radio Row. Good catching up with you as always.
Yeah,
dude.
man, you guys go see me running around here like crazy. This is what we love, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Looking forward to it. Thanks, man. We appreciate it. Hugh Myers there with us, Matt and I on Radio Row here earlier, about as dialed in with the with the Raiders, pardon me, as you can be.
Oh yeah,
Q's a good dude. We met him out here a few years ago, and yeah, we're excited to get all his thoughts on Patrick Graham, and it sounds
he's
like
pretty high on him.
Yeah, I thought about floating to him also the hypothetical that you and I had discussed, like if you're the Raiders and the Ravens or the Bengals come knocking with Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson or something like that. But the way he talked about Mendoza made it seem like it was a done deal.
I tend to think so too, but I mean, I did this on another podcast. Like, what could the Jets offer to make you move off them? And I came up with a scenario that you could.
There's always a Godfather offer out there somewhere. That's 2 hours in the books. Bonus hour on the other side. We will hear what Omar Khan had to discuss today, and we will continue. We've got some interesting comments from Adam Schefter on the future of Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, really?
That we'll get to in hour number 3. So plenty to go in the bonus hour of The Drive. Live here on Radio Row. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is continuing coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine. Live from Indianapolis on the Steelers Audio Network. Presented by First National Bank. Can your bank do that? Welcome to FNB. Let's get started. Member FDIC. Iron Workers Local Union number 3. We don't go to the office, we build it. Schneider Downs. Discover the value of big thinking with a personal focus at SchneiderDowns.com. Your neighborhood Ford store. The Ford F-150 is the official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by U.S. Steel. Mind melted, made in the USA.
Good evening, Steeler Nation. How we doing? Well, that's good. Us too.
Hour late.
Hour number 3 of the drive here. Bonus hour. We are, of course, on location. Radio Row inside the Indiana Convention Center. All part of our ongoing NFL Scouting Combine coverage. Our spiritual home here in downtown Indy in late February, as always. And, of course, one of our favorite things is all the different guests that we get to have. But also, Matt, today on this Tuesday in particular, a lot of important people, a lot of important minds around the National Football League.
Decision makers, yeah.
A lot of the key decision makers speaking to the media. And, of course, from the Steelers' perspective, that is Omar Khan, team general manager. Matt, I think we would typically always be interested to hear what the Steelers GM has to say, but especially this year when it feels like you're really starting a new chapter.
Yeah, and Mike Pursuta had a good point, a good observation that Omar did a local, press conference, and then he went to the national podium, and must have changed clothes in between because his logo on the second one was the draft in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
If you notice on there.
I see it right now on the thumbnail. Yeah.
Yep. So a little something different because it's a hometown draft too. So a little extra eyes on the Steelers, which I love. But unfortunately, we tried to play this. Well, not unfortunately. We tried to replay this right after it happened, And then he joined us live in the flesh, so we had to cut it off like 2 minutes in. It was like, what? He's here in person. That's more important. Let's do that.
Absolutely. And so that's available in all the podcast feeds. That'll be on on the SNR loop. So we wanted to make sure to bring you Omar Khan's comments from the podium.
This is the national one.
The national media that happened at 10 a.m. right across the way from here, just across the curtain, over on the other side of the TV podiums and all the things here inside this convention center setup. Here is what the Steelers general manager had to say earlier this morning.
Guys, good morning. Good to see everyone. Obviously, you guys know where the draft is this year in Pittsburgh. I can tell you that the community is really excited. We're all excited. It's a great place to host a draft, and can't wait for the rest of the world to get to know Pittsburgh a little more, because it's a special and unique place. Before I take any questions, I'll just mention, Coach McCarthy's been on the job for about a month, and it's been a grind, but it's been tremendous. I personally have learned a lot through the process, and Steelers haven't done this in a long time, but it's been great, and a lot of work, a lot of conversations, good discussions, but that's where we're at, and I personally, I'm really excited and have enjoyed the process. Coach McCarthy has been great. So happy to take any questions. Yeah, like all the fans, we're all searching for the next franchise, player. This guy's going to be our quarterback for 10 to 15 years, and it might be Will. We don't know. We're excited to work with Will. Really liked him coming out last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and we didn't get a chance to see him in the preseason. But he, we've watched his progression in practice, and it's been exciting. And I know the new coaching staff, specifically Coach McCarthy, is excited to work with him. Really liked him coming out. Yeah, it's not. That's not specific just to the quarterback position. That's every position. We're looking for franchise type guys at every position. So it's certainly important. The door's open to have Aaron back. I've had conversations with him. I spoke to him last week. Mike McCarthy spoke to him, and he knows how we feel about him. And it's. Right now we're proceeding. He's a free agent and he's not on the roster. So, but he knows how we feel about him. Yeah. So the one thing is the speed of the game, right? The anticipation. That just kind of comes with playing at this level. It's different than it is at the college level. But we saw that improve every week, and there's a lot to like. That's a question for Aaron. I mean, he knows how we feel, and I think we know how he feels about us. It was a good experience for both sides. Unfortunately, we didn't reach our goals on winning the games that we wanted to win at the end. But there's a mutual respect there. Yeah, I think the circumstances are a little different, but just conversations we had. I think neither side wants to have this drag on like it did last year. Yeah, so there's several traits, but I'll say we have to find the right quarterback that's going to be an AFC North quarterback. Playing in the AFC North, there's nothing like it. The cold weather, the rivalries, the division, the physicality of the division. So it's got to be a AFC North quarterback. Yeah, what was the first part of the question? Yeah, just how is the portal and that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you have to have an understanding of where they've been, who coached them at the previous school, who's coaching them now, scheme, players that are around them. There's a lot of different factors, and, a lot of the pressure falls on our scouts because they're the ones that want to know. When Coach McCarthy and I ask him questions, we want to know everything right away, so. Yeah, he's been great. You know what, Jenna, we really haven't had that much time to think about it. It's just been fluid. I mean, we have been grinding nonstop, so we don't have a choice other than to communicate often. And we've really got to know each other a lot and understand how he thinks. He understands how I think, and it's been a learning process. But it's been a grind, a good grind. Yeah, that's just sort of how it worked out. But there's some good. I mean, it speaks to the talent in the Big Ten. There's a lot of talent, a lot of good players there, and our scouts spent a lot of time there, and it's just sort of how it worked out. I'd say all options are on the table right now. Yeah. Yeah, both players are free agents, like you mentioned, and both players are. We'd like to have both of them back. We'll see how it shakes out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we paid Pat for a reason, and we expect him to be a big part of the offense this year. I know the new coaching staff likes him. They're excited to work with him. He represents us well, and Pat's a Steeler. Mm-hmm. You can't ever have enough good players at a specific position. With respect to the monetary part of your question, I'd say we're in a good cap position, so we have flexibility to do different things. And obviously, we haven't been in a position where we're paying the quarterback position at the top level. So we've had flexibility to where maybe you can go heavy at a specific position. Yeah, it's been a good experience with Pat. He's got a unique skill set. I know he's been in contact with the new coaches, and they're getting to know him, and he's getting to know them. And it's been a good experience, and expect him to contribute. Yeah, obviously what you guys saw on the field was disappointing. It's got to be better, but we see it on the practice field. We knew what he did in college, and I'd expect Caleb to turn the corner. Yeah, that's a good question. I've talked about how you guys have heard me talk about my belief in Roman. I think Roman's a talented player, and I expect him to contribute. I know the coaching staff is excited to work with him, and his rookie year, he got hurt, and that was a little bit of a setback. And last year, the opportunities didn't come. I think like everybody would have liked, but I think he's got a good future. Yeah, so the first year obviously was the injuries. He was sorry, Brian McFadden over there waving at me. He was the first year he got hurt, and I think at the end we were getting ready to start the window for him to practice, and we got eliminated from the playoffs. And then last year, different situations. There were different things, and there's not one specific thing, but I'm confident you guys are going to see some good things from him this year. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll just say, look, the approach we take is we try to get as many good players at every position as we can, and let it shake out from there. You just that's the right approach for us. I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm excited. We've been talking about this for a long time. Pittsburgh's such a special place. It's unique. Where it's going to be held, it's pretty exciting, and it's going to be it's going to be great not only for the local people, but I just can't wait for I have lots of friends. I'm getting a ton of requests, and I'm sure a lot of people are, about passes, what's going on, what to do, and I'm just excited to show off the city. Yeah, we have options. So, I'd love to be able to stand here every year and say I have 12 picks. I'll take that right now. It just gives us options. So.
Omar, I know that Mike is responsible for constructing his staff. One of the guys there that you work with is Tom. How important is it for someone like Will Howard's development to have that continuity at the quarterback position?
Yeah. So Mike, Tom Arth and Mike McCarthy have some history together, but Tom's done an awesome job with those guys. I know those players really like him, the young guys, the older guys, and it's important. He's here for a reason. Yeah, his passion for the game of football was very unique. Like, he just loves ball, and just like I had a great. It was an honor and privilege. I mentioned this earlier to work with side by side with Mike, but his passion and his positivity when it comes to players. I mean, I could sign every single one of you guys, and he would try to find something that you guys could do on the football field. It's just his approach is pretty unique. We've talked on the phone a couple times. I think maybe once I've seen him. Well, how long has it been? It's been what? I don't even know. 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it's been. So yeah, we've talked on the phone a few times, but I think just once. Yeah, I don't think we were good enough overall. We didn't win a single playoff game. That's not good enough. So we have to be better at every position. Yeah, I mean, his arm's fine, by the way. No, should be no restrictions, no issues. It's just him, who he is, and I expect him to get even better. And he had more opportunities too. Tough evaluation. I'll take 20 of them. He's a guy we want here long term. I think to when your question is, we're in good cap shape, so we have the flexibility to maybe do some things that might not be normal in people's eyes, but we have that flexibility. So the key is just keep as many of our good players under contract and locking them up. That's important. I really believe we have a good young nucleus of guys that are deserving of second contracts.
Guys, two more.
When you mean like online? Yeah, we I don't use. Be candid. Like I don't go online and read mock drafts. That's not me. But we have our own system of how we evaluate and judge different scenarios of what other people could do. And I mean, we study it, but until you don't know what the other 31 teams are thinking. So we're all guessing.
Last one.
If you look at our contracts, I don't really like to talk about specifics. That's not really, you don't see a lot of those in our contracts, but it's just a different technique. Different people use it for different reasons. You'd probably have to ask them why they choose to do it that way. I believe in the way we've done it and the system. It's worked for us, and like I said, we've managed it in the right way for us. Thanks.
Omar Khan, Steelers general manager, speaking there at the podium to the national and members of the Pittsburgh media, looking good in his NFL Draft, Pittsburgh. I don't know if it was a quarter zip or a sweater, exactly what it was, but we could use some of those here on radio.
Yeah, I noticed
Row.
it when he sat next to us too. I was like, "Ooh, I can use on this."
Hey, we could start promoting the cause here. Just about 2 months away from, of course, the 2026 NFL Draft on the North Shore of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Going to be a wild few days, but we have a wild few days, a wild week to continue here as we roll along. A couple things that Omar Khan said there that
there's a lot of stuff to unpack
that I want to revisit with you.
Okay.
And we've got a Aaron Rodgers update from Adam Schefter. So will we get into those when we return? It is our bonus hour here live inside the Indiana Convention Center. We're on Radio Row all week. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is live coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine on Steelers Nation Radio, a part of the Steelers Audio Network.
It is The Drive back here inside the Indiana Convention Center on Radio Row in beautiful downtown Indianapolis. Our final hour of 8 here today on our first day. We'll be rocking and rolling all week, 9 to 5, just like Dolly Parton. We will get out of here a little bit earlier on Friday so we can all get home at a decent hour. Of course, we did just hear from Steelers General Manager Omar Khan. A couple things there to discuss, Matt.
Yeah, a lot.
Namely, I like how he kind of addressed that they have some second contracts to get done with guys that have been coming through the ranks. Because I got to think, and it can be easy. We do so much time, new head coach, NFL Draft, the quarterback conversation, all these different things. But, man, at the top of the list, I think as much as any priority this offseason has to be locking up Nick Herbig and Joey Porter Jr. long term.
Yeah, and I also really liked what he said about Darnell Washington, too, and along those respects, too, of, hey, I'll take 20 of those guys. That's not a tough eval at all. You know, maybe sound like he will be very much in that mix as well of long-term Steelers or at least second contract guys. I think Porter's probably at the top of the list and the most expensive of the group, and he's earned that. I would really hope Herbig is a priority as well. I think Benton is a guy that's also from that draft class that could be very much in that mix. And he really didn't do a very good job of hiding it. I mean, that they want to keep these guys. He didn't mention anyone by name other than Washington, but it's not hard to figure out who those players could be. That's probably a post-draft situation. There's no reason to do it now. But, yeah. There'll some money set aside.
They certainly will, as they should, and I think that's those trio, it feels like, have to be a real priority going forward. Something that kind of ties into what we discussed a little bit today along the lines of defensive backs. And, you know, trying to get younger and faster as opposed to continue the Patrick Peterson, Darius Slay veteran
that
route.
kind of ran its course. And I don't really even count Ramsey in that mix because he was a trade. But like the Peterson, Slay, older corner, outside guys, that's a tough way to live.
And he was asked about that and if they've kind of reevaluated that strategy, if you will. And he said this process is always very fluid. I wish I could give you guys more. It's just such a fluid process. You know, the questions we have today are going to be completely different when I meet with you guys at the league meetings, so things will change.
Yes.
So I wonder if we're going to see that prioritized in free agency of, hey, you know, you'll get an answer. By the time we're at the league meetings at the end of March in Phoenix,
this will be a little more clear.
This will be a little more clear.
The way I took that, and again, I don't like to look too much into these conversations, but again, we opened the show this morning with Mike Pursuta in your chair, and he had been to both of the press conferences, and then Omar quickly joined us. So I was trying to like put all the context clues together I could from all those different conversations, and it made me think that I bet a corner, probably Pierre, but who knows, would probably be locked up by owners' meetings or whatever next time we talk to him. Which, again, would make that a lot more clear. You know, right.
And would certainly, I think, also kind of make the pecking order of draft priorities easier, which it will obviously be by the time we get to the end of April. They're going to sign multiple players in free agency.
And the corner situation, by then, we might be looking at it like Porter and Pierre, your outside guys. Ramsey's a slot now that could also play safety and do versatile things.
Eccles is a really good piece off the bench.
Eccles is your 4, which is how he opened camp last year, and I thought, boy, that's unusual depth for the Steelers. And You could still use that last third-round pick on a project corner. Who knows? Because Pierre's not young either,
Maybe you've added one of these safeties that we've discussed
Yeah.
in free agency too, and then all of a sudden you get to the draft and you're like, yeah, you want to add in the secondary, but it's not nearly as big of a priority as we thought
Don't
it was
have to, yeah.
back at the end of February.
Maybe it's a third or fourth-round pick with upside that starts out on special teams or, as opposed to needing a starter. I could absolutely see that scenario.
Yeah, that seems.
And think about it. If that were the case, defensive tackle might be the only thing you're really looking for in the first couple rounds. And I know a lot of people kind of push that off like, they just did that the last 2 years or last couple of years they've been drafting these guys high. I'm like, I want another.
I want more.
I want another. Right.
I'm trying to get greedy in the trenches.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that's certainly something that will come into focus more here when free agency begins, just 2 weeks from tomorrow. Of course, asked plenty about Aaron Rodgers and his potential return. The door is open to have Aaron back. Was kind of how he emphasized it a few times.
I think he said he spoke with Aaron. Coach McCarthy spoke with Aaron.
He said
that sounds like a lot of back and forth.
Spoke to him last week. Mike McCarthy has spoken to him. He knows how we feel, and I think we know how he feels about us. With that, Matt, earlier today, Adam Schefter, of course, well-known NFL insider, stated he was asked. It was on one of the shows that he was doing.
Sure. He's busy right now, too.
He's certainly busy this week. And he was asked about Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy and those comments and Aaron Rodgers and if he had any updates on the Aaron Rodgers situation. And Aaron Rodgers, pardon me, Adam Schefter said, and I quote, "Let's preface it by saying it's Aaron Rodgers, so there are never any absolutes and things could change just like that. But the belief around the league is that the feeling is he is supposed to give the Steelers an answer by mid-March. We're technically on the Aaron Rodgers clock. Many people thought there was no chance he'd be back. It certainly sounds like it is an absolute consideration. Again, it's Aaron Rodgers, so you never fully know, but it sounds like he's more likely than not to be back. The feeling is he'll be back. The feeling is it should be mid-March. The feeling is it should be Pittsburgh." End quote.
One little way that Schefter phrased that stood out to me is he will tell the Steelers, not like he will tell the league, I'm retired or I'm available. It's kind of made it sound like Steelers are bust.
That's what some of the, I think rightfully, hypotheticals that we've had of what if there's a second team who's interested? What if Minnesota, comes calling? What if somebody like that? It does feel like that's off the table, like it's Pittsburgh or retirement.
Just the way that Schefter phrased that and who's really smart with his words and does this for a living, yes. And also the way Omar's had this conversation and, it was reported, I forget who said it, a week or so ago, that this could go on for months, which I didn't like the sound of that.
Yeah.
And I bet that there's some pressure from the organization that's nice, Aaron, but we're not waiting. We can't wait months. It's just too big of a decision. I mean,
I understand he wields the power, he being Aaron
yeah,
Rodgers.
he can do whatever he wants.
But you can't give him just the open season that he had last year to make his decision.
You got to field a team.
And to be fair, heading into that process last year, there was still, even when OTAs opened up at the end of May, those first 2 weeks before the deal got done ahead of minicamp, there was still a lot of belief of Aaron Rodgers is coming here. They know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's on a weird, different timeline, but no panic. It's going to get done. It's not if, it's a matter of when.
And you really got that vibe when you were at the facility.
We really got that vibe at the facility. And
Yeah.
so that, I think, is even a little different than this year where
And he had never even played for the team before.
he had never played for the team before.
And it sounded like, I don't know what was going on in his personal life, but it sounded like there was plenty that he was dealing with.
Getting married and, and things like that, yes. And so because of that, I think there was a real confidence and trust factor between him and Mike Tomlin. And I think the Steelers, that was the, I guess, proverbial eggs, putting all your eggs in one basket. But they were very
pretty confident
that it was going to happen.
Break, yeah.
I don't know if you can, in good faith, be that confident this time around and give him that much time.
And I'm sure, even if Coach McCarthy wasn't in place here, that he had a meeting with Omar, Mr. Rooney, whoever, and probably said, I enjoyed this year. I had a lot of fun. It didn't end up exactly how we wanted. We'd have liked to go further in the playoffs, but I'd give me another year. I'd like to do it. Okay. Not a handshake agreement, but it both probably have left face-to-face saying, I think another year.
Really good chance we can run this back. Maybe he said something along the lines of, "I want to see how my body feels in a few weeks," and like I'm not 100.
But I'm leaning towards.
Playing one more year,
I
want to do that here.
Yeah,
I think there's a real chance that was.
Clearly he didn't just shut the door on the way out and be like, "I'm done. See you."
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously that's not the case, and at this point, especially after today, I got to think there's a 75% chance he's your opening day starter. Where I used to think
that high. I guess I think that's actually at this point. I think that's about 3. About 3/4 of a chance, 75% chance. 3 years out of 4, he's coming back here. Yeah, that's fair. That's
I would have been about 50% a week ago, but I just think the way that everyone's phrased things today and
that number's definitely gone up from where it was last week, certainly.
Which I totally understand.
Yeah,
he was interesting and inspiring to be around, even from a distance. You know what I mean? Like, boy, he knows his stuff, and it's a fine line because the Willis angle I'm really intrigued with. But I'm really intrigued with next year's draft class, and I really am intrigued with the influence Rodgers had on the organization, more than maybe the other way around.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is a big part of this, too, is – you have to kind of survey the landscape and everything that's around you. And if it felt like it was if this was a year that there's going to be 5 or 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round.
Different story.
Completely different story.
Yeah. Or if you were picking 8th overall or, right.
Yep. Or
in a draft like that.
If there's 2 or 3 big name free agents as opposed to just Malik Willis. But I think when you kind of assess the situation.
If you were in love with Kyler Murray and you knew you could get a deal done or something like that. I don't see that.
Don't see that being the case. Matt, last thing that we have to discuss that could be pretty significant down the line. It sounds like there's a potential that Broderick Jones could not be ready for training camp for the Steelers with that injury in July. Of course, he suffered that injury, that neck injury, against the Bears in November last season. And Omar Khan was asked about his availability for training camp, and it wasn't a particularly, positive update, if you want to say. Quote, "He had a significant injury, and we're monitoring how he progresses. I know he's working hard. It's still early in the process, but that's certainly something that we're monitoring." So
you hate hearing neck anyway.
You hate hearing neck in a position like that.
Sure.
And it's obviously, we all know, a huge year for him and for the Steelers and for the future of that position in the organization. But when you kind of are parsing through the coach speak, GM speak, I think if they were confident that he's on the other side, healthy, it's not going to be a big deal, I think he would have probably been a little more committal as opposed to leaving that wide open. That's a little bit of a red flag for me here.
Yeah, where would you be without Dylan Cook? Obviously, I think a lot of us probably thought it would be a Jones-Cook conversation or training camp battle to some degree.
Yes.
I thought Cook was the better player last year, but that doesn't mean you got to flush Jones's potential down the toilet. Plus, you have a new offensive line coach. Could he find things in any of these offensive linemen to tweak their game to improve them? That's not a knock on the old staff, but, it's a new set of eyes. But I don't like hearing that. And I've gotten a lot of pushback of drafting a tackle with one of those top 5 picks. I'm not saying necessarily round 1.
Yeah.
But I think you're crazy not to. The chances of Jones being on the team 2 years from now, probably slim. Do we know that you're out of the woods with Cook? A lot of tackles can bump into guard. Is it ever a bad thing to have another tackle?
Nope.
A third-round guy that has a lot of athletic ability but needs to get stronger or something along those lines. I think I would be really ripe for picking one of those, especially if Jones isn't going to be available for minicamp or training camp for a while.
It's one of those positions that we've discussed a million times. I'd rather have one too many.
Oh, always.
And especially now, we've discussed how clearly, if you look at Mike McCarthy's coaching staff hires on offense and their background and their experience, they've got a lot of offensive line-minded guys in that room.
Yeah.
3 former offensive line coaches in that room. If there's ever a time to go and get a project guy late in day 2 and day 3,
can't be an accident. Yeah,
it feels like now you would really want to take a swing on that when you've got so many offensive line coaches on that staff now.
And I don't foresee this being the case, but I also thought if you don't pick up the 5th-year option, which I don't know how you possibly can now, especially with more injury news on top, I didn't think he even would do that to begin with, and he doesn't win the job right away, somebody would give you a decent pick for Jones. there's a lot worse starting offensive tackles.
And he's still only
He's still a
25,
puppy
26
too.
years old, whatever
There's a
he
lot
is.
of teams out there that had a high grade on him a couple years ago, I'm sure. And if you had a third-round pick, you could make that work a little easier, you know.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. So that was
Don't
kind
love
of
that
the,
news, though.
That was the yes
Yeah.
of I think that was the, I don't know if you want to say like one negative takeaway that I had. Everything else I thought was moving in the right direction. The stuff you want to hear.
Like you mentioned, Darnell Washington's injuries, nothing.
Yes.
I mean, there's a broken bone. We thought that.
But when you're asked, when you're asked about will he be ready for training camp, which is
he didn't ask minicamp or
still what
OTAs
like 5-6 months away. I mean
Right.
that's a little eye popping. That's a little jarring. And obviously we just wish the best for Broderick Jones and his neck and that recovery
That
and what
too.
can't be fun.
I hope it's not like career threatening. I'm
Yeah.
not throwing it out there to scare people, but that part of the body I don't like hearing. What I wanted to hear was, boy, he came to camp, looks like a new man. Wish we would have picked up that fifth-year option. We didn't. We got to talk extension because he's going to be one of the best left tackles in the league. You know, which still could happen. I mean, he has that kind of ability.
He sure does, and he is still a puppy. But the Steelers are getting close to that rubber meeting the road time, and it is not looking favorable from his standpoint, at least with the future with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But things always subject to change, and as our guy Dale Lawley would have said, you are allowed to get better.
Yeah.
Matt, we got our final segment on the other side.
Okey-doke.
Indianapolis Colts brass is taking the podium across the way from us right now. I wonder if we'll get anything on Daniel Jones or anything interesting on some of the decisions.
They are an interesting team.
They're at an interesting crossroads this offseason. No first-round pick. Quarterback, situation kind of up in the air for the future. So we will.
I could see Richardson getting traded. They got some wide receiver stuff that's up in the air right now too. Yeah,
they've got. Yeah, that's a great point with the wide receivers as we've been discussing. So we'll see if maybe we get some comments from the Colts people before we get out of here. We'll dot some T's and cross some I's with our final bonus segment when we return. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. We are live on Radio Row here inside the Indiana Convention Center. It's all part of our ongoing Combine coverage on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
This is live coverage of the 2026 NFL Combine on Steelers Nation Radio, a part of the Steelers Audio Network.
Final segment here in the bonus hour of the drive, hour 8 of our coverage here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network of day one of the Combine.
Been a good day one.
It certainly has. We've had some fun guests, some intriguing news of the day. We'll get to some more here to wrap this thing up.
I don't want to tease it in case it doesn't work out, but I think we got a couple guys lined up for tomorrow too.
We have some potential fun guests that, again, Matt is like, Matt's like the lion here on the open plain, stalking the gazelle.
The prey.
Waiting for the gazelle to come running by, and he can go, hey, why don't you come here and talk with me on radio for 10, 15 minutes.
When I got here this morning, after you were off the first hour, there were so many candidates, but it was like Omar time. I couldn't be pulling guys in too easily. So hopefully tomorrow morning's good as well, but the 3 hours we do together is going to be pretty chock full of guests.
It's going to be awesome and good people, and we've had some great ones so far today, and that will continue certainly here all week. Matt, Chris Ballard, Colts GM, on the podium across from us, as we mentioned before going to break. He was asked about future contracts for Daniel Jones and for Alec Pierce.
Okay.
And he said both sides, in both of their cases, both parties, both sides are driven to get deals done.
Wow.
So it sounds like, I think with Daniel Jones, that's not surprising at all.
Yeah, I don't know what other options they have or he has, and it went well, so do it again,
But and especially, again, considering they don't have a first-round draft pick, they don't have a ton of – they're not in cap purgatory, but they don't have
they're
a
not
bunch.
flush with it either.
They're not exactly right. But, man, it's interesting to see him or hear him label Alec Pierce in that same breath.
Yeah, and he really did come on strong. He had a very, very good year. He's a lot different than Warren and Downs, so it gives you a wide variety. I just keep coming back to, I think it'd be really tough to keep Pierce and Pittman. And Pittman would interest me quite a bit, would interest me more than Pierce for what you'd have to give up for him or all those things too.
Yeah.
He probably could be released, or you could get him for a 7th-round pick and restructure his deal.
I think it's certainly something to keep an eye on from a Steelers perspective, right?
He'd be a nice fit. Plays hard, goes over the middle.
Certainly would. He's one of those guys that for the right price I think we would love to see in the black and gold. Matt, some more just kind of news of the day. Again, crossing some T's, dotting some I's before we get up out of here. Trent Williams and the 49ers. Sounds like they're at a bit of a contract standoff. Williams is due a massive is scheduled to carry, a massive $39 million cap hit this season. And he's an all-time great, but that's a lot for a left tackle
at his
age. According to Adam Schefter, the two sides are kind of struggling to find a solution. And if they can't bridge the differences in their standoffs, Williams will be released by the Niners.
So who knows? Curious how this shakes out because they're still definitely in it to win it, and they lost a lot of star power to injury last year on the defensive side of the ball mostly, but also haven't gotten anything out of Ayuk and some of these other big name guys. They're a top heavy roster by design. McCaffrey's and Warner's and Bosa's and Williams, and you mentioned he is an all-time great. I mean, I don't know that everyone gives him that kind of credit, but he's really as good as basically any left tackle that's ever played a game.
Oh, absolutely.
And still is really, really good. So 95% of him is still an elite player,
he's
a Pro Bowl
walk
guy.
into the Hall of Fame 5
easily.
years after he retires.
So there would be a massive market for him if he became a true UFA, even probably on a one-year deal for the next stop. But the Niners have a lot of cap issues. Their receiver room's kind of in flux. We mentioned the Steelers could be interested in Pittman. Could they be interested again in Ayuk? Could they be interested in Jennings, who's becoming a true free agent? It's going to be hard for the Niners to run back what they have already. And I don't know that Williams is super interested in restructuring by the sounds of it.
No, and he's kind of earned that right. And
sure,
at this
he can do
point
whatever he wants.
In this point in his career, he's been, like you said, one of the greatest ever, the best of his generation.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it is nuts that him and Lane Johnson both came out of Oklahoma around the same time. Maybe the best, maybe the best left tackle and right tackle of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of stuff is like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase being at LSU at the same time.
That is crazy.
It's just nuts to think about. But that's certainly one to keep an eye on. Not from Steelers specific.
No, he wouldn't be a fit
angle.
here. But
but just for a guy who is, again, a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it.
And I would imagine in his shoes, too, like some of these other guys we mentioned, or a Mike Evans that's hitting free agency, they're going to probably pick the right team if they go play for somebody else.
One last run geared up with a team who's clearly in a Super Bowl window. Yeah,
I don't think they're going to the Browns or Arizona or
That would shock me. Although Arizona, not a bad place to retire. I've been
told.
No,
it's a good retirement home.
Matt, the many Steelers have traveled west and treated that as their retirement home, including our very own Max Starks.
Yeah, he seems happy there.
He sure does. Matt, the Minnesota Vikings brass spoke not too long ago as well, and that's a little bit of an interesting situation because they're still changing some stuff up in that front office after firing their
I guess they don't have a GM in place
They don't have a GM in place currently. So it was Vice President of Football Operations Rob Brzezinski who took the podium about an hour ago for the Minnesota Vikings because, again, every organization, you have to have a GM or a coach speak today or tomorrow. Almost all of them go today. There are a couple.
Do we know there are a few tomorrow?
There's a couple tomorrow, yes. But, probably, 85, 90% of them go today.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, quarterback J.J. McCarthy, big topic for the Minnesota Vikings. And according to, again, VP of Football Operations Rob Brzezinski, the Minnesota Vikings are, as he says, exploring all possibilities to improve their quarterback play in 2026. He used a lot of those buzzwords, Matt, casting a wide net, not ruling anything out. What we do know is we need a level of baseline quarterback play for us to be effective. Sounds like not
that's not a ringing endorsement.
The ringing endorsement of J.J. McCarthy. I don't think anybody would expect that. But I don't know. This is another one of those even lesser, hey, the bird in the hand is not great, but door number 2 could be even worse because what is door number 2?
I think you have to add to door number 1. I think you bring back McCarthy with more competition than he's had, not somebody that you hope, not somebody that's non-threatening, a Mariota that you hope McCarthy easily beats out. I think you bring back somebody or add somebody that's legit competition, that's probably a better player today, and make McCarthy get over that bar. A Carr, a Cousins,
so
maybe Kyler. I don't know.
So I was gonna. This is all. I know it's not a Wednesday, but this is a would you rather exercise. Okay, if you are Minnesota, let's go Kyler Murray. I'm gonna leave Malik Willis out of this because that's a.
I don't think he's gonna sign there. Yeah.
Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Mac Jones. Any of those stand out? Does Mac Jones even
stand out?
Does he even
But I
fill that
think
description?
Geno could really do well there. And I'm not trying to make you happy, but I think if he gets one more crack at a good organization, that he could really go out on a high note in his career. And to me, if I'm Geno, that's where I want to land.
Okay, like
maybe if
you
I'm
had
any of those guys, that's where I want to land.
Sure.
I'm throwing to Justin Jefferson.
good
and,
wide
yeah.
receivers, offensive-minded coach.
Yep, Steelers just plucked someone from their offensive staff. It's a great offensive staff. It's a really good system. The line's better than you think, too. It was just kind of banged up this year. I could see anyone succeeding, and I'd be really worried about McCarthy. I mean, I read some stuff about his throwing over the middle was really, worst in the league. He's not the biggest, strongest, best playmaker to begin with. Even at Michigan, he was hand the ball off and, kind of a caretaker in a bad way. I don't think his book's written yet. I mean, maybe he is the next Sam Darnold that gets a new lease on life somewhere else, but I'm not getting any good vibes out of that.
Agreed.
Yeah, they're going to have to add something substantial.
And speaking of bad vibes, Matt, as we close this thing down, Andrew Berry, Browns general manager, of course, spoke a little over an hour ago, said the starting QB role is up for grabs. It'll be a battle that includes Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and Deshaun Watson. Left that door open for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I kind of heard this.
He said he's been working really hard. He's been working his tail off, and we're excited to go in mid-April with all of our players across the roster.
Whew. I mean, that can't sound good for the Browns.
No, and
Yeah.
maybe he's just saying, again, there could just be GM speak, but I don't know what reason he would have to
I
pump
think
up Deshaun Watson's
I think
tires
ownership
at this point.
is still pushing for Watson.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
do.
invested so much in this guy. He's
right.
still not
we
that
loved
old.
him that long ago, all that stuff. But, man, I mean, none of those options are inspiring. I would think that the real goal is draft one super high next year. You're probably – I'm not saying tank, but you don't have any offensive linemen. The other thing I heard, which I think would be a massive mistake, is, oh, by the way, the Browns have no cap space whatsoever.
They are in a rough spot this offseason.
Now, they could restructure in a big way Watson.
Sure, like the Bank of Mahomes, like you were talking about.
Yeah, but that means he's around longer and the problem's even bigger.
Yeah.
Unless he's phenomenal all of a sudden. But they don't have many other guys they can restructure with.
Correct.
It's a mess.
It's a real big mess, and I know that does not make anybody in Steeler land sad.
No, they might be my last choice of who I'd want to be GM for right now. It's bad.
This was good. Great day in the
good day.
books. Thanks to Nathan and Justin for producing. Thanks to all of our guests today. We had some great ones. We're running out of time here to thank all of them, but we'll do a big thank you to everybody at the end of the week. But that will do it for us today. We're back at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, thanks to TV here doing the video on the site as well. You know where to find us tomorrow at 9 a.m. live on Radio Row here on your 24/7 home of the black and gold, Steelers Nation Radio.